Okay, next episode for sure. We have to write down names.
Yeah, next episode, we gotta remember all of the hot, sexy ladies in the racing game. Yeah, sure, buddy.
We gotta remember. we gotta remember the names of the cars. Yeah, I was driving the Toyota Evo,
The box car.
Yeah, we sound like idiots. We're doing deep dives, and people are like, "These niggas don't even know."
They don't even know the
like,
characters' names, bro. That's my favorite
yeah.
character.
In a reimagined version of the 100 Years' War, England isn't just sending soldiers, they've got demons on their side. The French are barely hanging on until 5 magical armlets help turn the tide and defeat the demon lord from wreaking havoc. But peace doesn't last long. One of the original heroes, the Duke of Bedford, cuts a deal with the demon lord, offering up his nephew, Henry VI, as a host in exchange for an end to the fighting. Now possessed, Henry leads a demon army to conquer France. Far from the chaos, Jeanne and her friends are enjoying a festival in their quiet village. That peace is shattered when the demon army attacks, burning everything to the ground. Devastated and fueled by revenge, Jeanne grabs the nearest weapon and charges into battle. In the heat of the fight, she stumbles upon one of the magical armlets. It transforms her into a warrior powerful enough to take on entire armies. Determined to stop the demon army and save France, Jeanne sets out to find the remaining armlets. Along the way though, she gathers a ragtag group of allies, each with their own reasons for joining the fight. Together, they take on impossible odds, hoping to end the war and restore peace. So Jeanne D'Arc is a tactical RPG for the PSP released in 2007. Players command a small team of units on an isometric map to complete missions that range from holding a position to escaping before time runs out. Between battles, you can upgrade your team with new gear and craft custom skills. For example, combining a healing skill with an HP boost creates a passive HP recovery ability. One of the game's standout features though is the armlet system. Certain characters can transform into superpowered forms after building up enough points. In this mode, defeating an enemy immediately grants another turn, letting you chain skills for massive impact. Another unique mechanic is the burning aura, so every attack leaves a glowing space behind the target, which deals bonus damage if another ally uses that space on the next turn. These features make battle strategic and rewarding. At the time, level 5 was riding high with hits like Dark Cloud and Dragon Quest VIII. After the success of Rogue Galaxy, the studio started juggling multiple projects. CEO Akihiro Hino handed the reins of Jeanne D'Arc to Ken Motomura, a first-time director. The team wanted to create a tactical RPG that was easy for newcomers but still satisfying for genre veterans. They chose Joan of Arc for her universal appeal, added gorgeous anime cutscenes by Gainax, and worked with French locals to nail the dialect. Despite glowing reviews, Jeanne D'Arc struggled commercially. It launched the same day as BioShock and faced stiff competition from Final Fantasy Tactics re-releases. On top of that, the early 2000s weren't always kind to anime-style games. While some titles thrived like Final Fantasy, Pokemon, and Kingdom Hearts, many others were overlooked as the market leaned toward grittier, more realistic games like GTA and Call of Duty, at least here in the West. Even so, Jeanne D'Arc earned a loyal fan base and is still celebrated as one of the PSP's hidden gems. A 2024 remaster for PS4 and PS5 finally gave the game a chance to shine for a broader audience. Jeanne D'Arc is a long overlooked title that blends creativity, charm, and tactical depth into an experience that deserves a second look, meaning it's perfect for back of the rack. Here we are, season 5, Jeanne d'Arc, or Jeanne. Did you have trouble saying the name? Did you like have to reference?
Isn't that how they say it on the game? Jin?
In the game, they say Jeanne, like it's John, but with a French ass J.
Yeah.
They say Jeanne, you know. And then I was also looking at the history of the character, you know how it's Joan of Arc.
Mm-hmm.
But in some instances, so I actually had this sort of mishap with Elise, my girlfriend. So I was like, babe, what do you know about Jeanne d'Arc? And I was going off the name of the game, and she was like, what? I was like, Jeanne d'Arc. She's like, I don't.
Who the fuck is that? Is that an
yeah.
artist?
And I was like, oh wait, Joan of Arc. She's like, oh yeah. But then as I was doing research, she's also referred to as Jeanne D'Arc. So it was technically not just the game that's named that, or like a fictional sort of. That's actually like another name that she went by. So I was like, oh, that's so confusing.
Is it like one of those things like Genghis Khan? Because Genghis Khan isn't like Genghis Khan's like name. It's I forgot the name, but it starts with a T. But that's like his actual name that he's like referred to over there. But like we just can't like say it or whatever. So instead we say Genghis Khan. I think it might be like the same situation as that.
Yeah. Because there's like a different name she went by, like Joan of Maiden and some other stuff. But yeah, I think it's Jeanne, and then
for a long time growing up, it was Jeanne D'Arc.
Oh yeah,
for me.
Yeah, it's like Jeanne D'Arc. I mean, I don't know what else. which doesn't even make sense, because when I played this when I was a kid or a teenager, really, they say the name in the game for you to reference, but I still like every time I was reading it,
Jeanne.
I was like, nah, it's Jeanne. So, but let's talk about our first exposure to this title, because it's of the PSP era, so what, 2005 and on?
Yeah, it was released in 2007.
2007.
I first saw this game actually in 2009 was the time that I saw this game, and the only reason I saw it was because I traded this game with a friend. I think I gave him my copy of Killzone Liberation.
Ooh.
And he gave me a copy of Joan. I almost said it. And he gave me his copy of Joan D'Arc. I was like, here you go, you could play it. The same friend that was like, here's my games in the fucking binder.
The binder with the sleeves, like a maniac.
He gave me the UMD. And I think it was too scratched up for me to play. So I just gave it back and got back my copy of Killzone Liberation. And so I saw the cover. I had it. I started it up, but I just never played it. And then instead I think I played Disgaea for a little while. So like that's the most I've had, but like it's always interested me, you know. It's got a striking title. It's always seemed interesting. And I always said, like, if I was to get a PSP, I would get a PSP specifically for this game and a couple of other Japanese exclusive games. Like this will be one of the main selling points of getting a PSP.
Wow. Yeah, I think, just real quick, when it comes to PSP games being scratched, this was a issue I remember running into like when I was a kid, where in my mind I remember thinking, like, why can't I just take this disc out of this fucking case, because it's like in the white little case, and it has a little opening, and just swap them out. But I never, I didn't know where to get like an extra fucking case, like a UMD case. But I always thought that was interesting, because there were so many games where the UMD case was scratched, and so you would put it in your PSP and it wouldn't read, and then it's just like, wow, I want to play this game so bad, but I can't. And I just need like a whole other plastic piece. You want to know
a fucked up secret? When I first started at GameStop, they were getting rid of, like, that was the end of the Wii PSP time. They were getting rid of those games. So in the back, they were packing up all of the PSP games to ship back to the warehouse. And there was a giant box of just UMD cases that like people would bring in from like games, like NBA Live 04, 05 or whatever.
Right.
And all the fucked up ones were either like all like somebody tried to do that. Like they would like try to swap the cases. So the game would be in there, but like the case would be flimsy because you can't snap it back. And we just had a whole box of those, like a small Amazon box full of just broken UMDs. And I thought the same thing too, where I was like, can't you just snap it back? Yeah. It should work, right? And no, you can't. You probably can. There's probably some way that you could do it, but me, I'm not trying that.
I mean, those physical discs were really fascinating. It felt very like Sony to have a like cartridge disc kind of,
right.
Like it was just such a weird combination of things, you know, because the disc was in there, you could clearly see it. Why did it need this housing essentially to play? Like, it's just kind of strange. Because I mean, they were like GameCube sized discs, maybe a little bit smaller. So I don't know.
It probably was for the kids. It was probably some executive at Sony said, "Yeah, but kids are going to be playing this," and they said, "You're right. We can't do that because kids portable. They'll just throw them all in, or some kid will be dumb like me and put like 3 discs in the PSP and slam it down and fuck the whole PSP up." They probably did it as a scapegoat to be like, as a safety precaution. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if they got any inspiration from some of their like music players, their like mini disc music players that kind of had like the small discs, and they sometimes were in like a cartridge.
You know, now that you mentioned that, this is interesting because this is around the time that Blu-ray was just being formed too.
Yeah,
like they were just experimenting with formats like HD. Yeah. What was it? What was the one that Microsoft did? What was it? HD disc?
Yeah, HDD or something.
Yeah,
like that, right?
or something. I forgot the name.
That was crazy. Like the maroon colored. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was wild. Wild times.
Kids don't even know what they got these days.
Well, they don't have physical at all. It's just streaming.
It's all digital. They just got download speeds. That's all they got.
Speaking of that, real quick, to make to sort of just, this is a huge rant, sort of, but nothing actually makes me feel older these days than when I realize, you know, I have younger people come over sometimes and they see my physical collection of games and shit. And in my mind, I'm still living in like 2007. So I forget that no one really collects any physical media, whether it's movies or games or anything. It's so when people see this, you know, they're like, "Oh wow, you like have the physical stuff." I'm like, "What do you mean? Do you not?"
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, they don't.
And no, so that had that same situation happen over Christmas. I got a box set for the final season of Twin Peaks, and I was like, "Oh yes, thank you. I was needing this." And then I got a couple of vinyls, and people were like, "Why don't you just download the?
Yeah,
you can just stream this. What are you doing?" And I'm like,
"Yeah,
I like this though. You don't understand. I like having vinyls."
It's a really weird feeling. You're just like, you feel like you have to justify yourself in some way, but I don't know. It's hard to explain the love of physical media.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Jeanne D'Arc was one of my first turn-based RPGs, strategy RPGs. I think maybe before that on PS1 I had experimented a little bit with playing with Final Fantasy Tactics, and I think at some point I had played Disgaea on PS2, but I had never like completed them. I was always interested in them. They were always really expensive games, so you know, like I've mentioned on the podcast before, I had to return them pretty quickly. And these games really have to like sit with. They're not weekend games, you know. Right. So you know, but when I got a PSP, I was able to get this game and was immediately enamored with it. I was probably in high school, want to say maybe like sophomore, maybe freshman year. So that was around 2007. So the same year it came out.
Damn,
I picked it up. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And then it was so crazy because I was so into, I was like, yeah, this is so fucking sick. I loved it so much. And I can't specifically remember why I got rid of it or what happened to it. I remember having it for a very long time, and like I actually remembered as we were playing through it, I remembered the specific level I got to back then, like the last level up. And it just felt like, because you know how you had talked about Dragon Quarter, I had talked about Musashi, how you just weren't able to finish these games when you were younger.
Right.
So getting to that point with this, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I remember this level so vividly, you know, because I mean the game has a very specific art style. There's nothing really quite like it, especially at the time. Yeah, that was one of those games that I thought also many people had played and no one really knew about it. So I think it sort of made it, well, I mean, in this YouTube era, it feels like everybody all of a sudden played it, you know.
Yeah. But, once it becomes underrated or an underrated gem, everybody's played it all of a sudden.
Yeah. It's I remember that game. Yeah. But there's so many times where I, talk to other RPG players and they'd be like, "No, I never heard of it on the PSP." I'm like, yeah. It started like it was during like the 100 Years' War. With Joan of Arc but it was like anime as fuck. And they're like, nah. So it's kind of funny to see it sort of creep up on. And I mean, it just recently got a HD remaster, whatever, release on PS5. So I was just like, wow, that's kind of, I
Very
guess it
convenient.
was, yeah, like very convenient, but also I guess Sony was like, yeah, let's bring this back. So I don't know. I don't know how many people actually bought it or picked it up, but I would definitely recommend picking it up on PS5.
Oh
Though
yes.
I played it on original hardware PSP. So
Actually,
yeah, actually.
actually, I played this as intended by the developers.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I imagine this game would look ugly on a massive screen. Like it
And
just
I
would
looked at the screenshots of the PlayStation 4 version because the graphics are upscale, but the UI isn't. And I was like,
oh,
ooh,
yeah.
I'll just stick to emulating this.
Did they add, I don't know if you know, but did they add like a fast forward feature or any like
They did
things
add
like that? Or just like,
a rewind and a quick save
oh,
feature. So it does have save everything that I used in the game
yeah,
emulated. They have
a lot
built
of
into the
quality of life stuff.
remaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really dabbled in tactical strategy RPGs. Like the most I ever played was like you said, Disgaea. But even then, you're reading a lot more Disgaea than you are playing Disgaea. And I just probably messed around making a bunch of characters and being like, I'm making Sasuke and just that. That's
Yeah.
as most of
Yeah.
this guy I play. And the Reckon of Agar's War, same situation. It's mostly visual novel, and then you get some shitty strategy attached. The most I played of a strategy game like this was Fire Emblem Awakening when that was a thing, because I was working, of course, at
Mm.
GameStop when it released, and
That was a
I
big
was
one.
just like, all right, there's a thing when midnight releases happen to where you can just, well, I mean, there's a thing at GameStop. I don't know if it is now. Don't quote me on this, but you just be casually playing games. Like if somebody trades in a console, instead of packing that thing up, we might just play some games in the background when it's
When it's
dead.
slow, yeah.
Yeah, when it's slow. So that's what I would do. I would just play Fire Emblem Awakening for like a week, and I was like, I'm not rocking with this. My characters are dying. I don't like this genre. It's the. We'll talk about this more in gameplay, but the when you move your character, and they die because you fucked up because you weren't thinking 2 steps ahead, that really deterred me from the genre. And there's a lot of
Mm.
strategy games that I would like to play, like Tactic Ogre, Final Fantasy Tactics, another one, for example. I would
Yeah.
love to dabble into this genre, especially after playing Joan d'Arc. But for me, especially even Joan d'Arc when it first dropped, I was like, I'll try it, but I don't know. And I think this is a cool and interesting way to do a tactical RPG because it looks beautiful. It's got anime cutscenes by Gainax of all people. It's got a nice, fun localization. It's got an interesting story. So I like the way that the characters looked in Joan d'Arc, and that's what always drove me to this game. Getting into presentation about it all, though. Speaking of UI not being upscaled, I think that is the standout point I would say about Joan d'Arc. Before we talk about anything involving anything else, the UI is elite. We talk about
Oh,
UI a
really?
lot,
Yeah.
usually in our stories and in our games, but UI in this game is one of those things that I never felt like I was confused about what exactly was going on in the game. Like I knew exactly where the stats were. I knew exactly how to build or do the skill binding. I knew exactly how to equip all the different gears or what stores and how to navigate the map. Everything felt easy. And I do know that they said specifically in interviews that they wanted this to be a game for strategy RPG lovers and for newcomers to the genre, because a lot of people like me believe that strategy RPGs are very difficult because of that stigma. They wanted to alleviate a lot of that. And I think that they did a good job, especially with a lot of the tutorials and the fact that there's like, I think you can press select at any time and it pulls up a tutorial. The tutorial messages back up. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I'd use that a couple times. That's why I do.
Mm.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed how easy and clean this game is.
Yeah, I guess that's a testament to how good the UI is, because I think that it was, I didn't have any negative feelings about it. There are a lot of things that I think that, I mean, the PSP is interesting with how small the text can be and how readable things need to be, right? And I think that they made use of the space, abbreviated things where they needed to be abbreviated. You know, they had a lot of tabs, and everything was readable. I'm trying to think back on what the UI looked like, but it was pretty good. I know my main gripes were the lack of filtering options a lot of the time. And that's more to the gameplay side. But yeah, I think you're right. It's definitely solid. It's on theme. It doesn't feel out of place.
It's got that Eternal Sonata, the parchment kind of texture.
Yeah, the sort
the
of
of it.
16th or really 14th century fucking sort of texture to it. I think that, so along with presentation and the UI, one of the things that caught my eye was the text of certain characters, the way it was written. So
Yes.
One of the characters talks with a lisp, or some sort of lisp.
I know what
some
you
sort
mean.
of
is it the thief?
No. It's the he's like a chubby. He's like the chancellor to Charles.
Oh,
to the
yes.
So all of his
antagonists.
S's, all of the words that he says that end in an S are written with a TH. So instead of it's less than, he would say it's written as it's leth than.
Yes.
So all the THs were. So I thought that was a really interesting touch.
And I believe that thief, I think he says Z's instead of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So because his is a little bit difficult to decipher when it's not in a cutscene and you're like, what the fuck is he saying? Because it's just but that's probably a French dialect from a different thingy-bob, because I know that they did reach out to a lot of French localization experts to better make those accents and dialects to make it authentically to the French and English of that time. So
yeah,
I think that's really cool that they did that. They didn't have to do that.
It was fun.
They could have just had Laura Bailey make Laura Bailey noises and call it a day.
Yeah, Laura Bailey and fucking Troy Baker and Nolan North.
Yeah, get Johnny Young Bosch and fucking Yuri Lowenthal in there. Wait, Yuri Lowenthal is in the game, actually.
He is. He's Roger.
Yeah.
So it's the same niggas. Fucking 20 years of games and media. It's I'm so tired of
Sasuke's gonna be in everything that you ever notice, bro. You'll never not hear his voice.
I just recently watched the newer anime Dandadan. I watched the English version and I'm just God, they're still using the same. This is the first anime I've seen in new anime in 20 since I don't know that I've seen in fucking 5 years possibly. And I'm just damn, still same niggas. All of them, the same voice actor for the shy school kid and the macho. I'm just damn, this is getting old. How's there only 8 people that they keep hiring? No
That's
one else?
how I feel with Japanese now. Shout out.
Really?
Shout
you
out
can
Nevin
catch
community. Yeah, I've started to peep Tanjiro's voice actor from Demon Slayer.
Mm.
I can hear it because I think he has the same voice actor as Deku, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, so all of the new main protagonists, because I believe Deku was voiced by the same person that does Asta, and everybody was yelling from Black Clover, and everybody was like, "Oh, his voice is so annoying. He keeps screaming. Oh my god!" And it's bro, it's the same voice actor. It's just he's just doing a different inflection. He's just doing a different character. But it's to me, all I hear is Deku screaming. But to everybody else, they're and I'm it's the same guy. It's the same thing. I don't know. We need to start watching anime in Spanish. That's what we need to do.
Or French. more on topic watching
Brazilian or something.
But yeah, so back to sort of the characters themselves. I've always said this on the podcast, but I love PSP graphics, and so I love the sort of chibified stylistic look like they went with, like the proportions. I think they're like really detailed and very expressive. I don't know, I just thought they were like perfect. I love that style, and I know that you and me were like sort of talking about pixel art and like low poly kind of stuff, the PS1 graphics. Well, I feel like PSP graphics are a step between PS1 graphics and PS2
yes.
graphics.
I'd say it's
And
PS 1.5, where it's got the
Yeah.
fidelity of a PlayStation 2 game, but it has the limitations of like a PlayStation 1, so you can't get too detailed. But we can get detailed in the characters, but we're not going to get detailed in the environments or something like that.
Yeah. They're not like too boxy and not too ugly, but they're like solid enough where you can kind of make it out. I love that style a lot, but it feels very niche, right? People obviously just say, "Oh, it's PS1 graphics" or PS2 graphics or whatever. I think it is like my favorite graphical era.
Yes.
Something about the presentation that I wanted to bring up too was that, and this sort of happens with tactical RPGs like Fire Emblem, Disgaea, other things like it, where it's supposed to be this battle field, right? You're this battle with like two sides, and there's supposed to be all these characters. The thing with these tactical RPGs sometimes is that they never really quite capture that feeling of like a battle. I think like Fire Emblem comes close because it cuts to a scene with like your character and then maybe like 5 other characters behind them, so it feels like they're in a space battling, like a war.
Yeah, like Advance Wars. Advance Wars is the same
Advance
thing where
Wars.
you'll destroy like 5 tanks and there'll be like 10 more left or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's obviously a limitation of the PSP. And maybe that's because they use like 3D graphics. So maybe that's what the limitation was. Maybe if they hadn't used it, they would have been able to denote that these were battles with like hundreds of people in them. But all the battles just felt a little too small scale for me.
Especially in the later half, I can feel you. It feels like it's like, oh, that's just a JRPG party going and doing stuff at this point.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like the war it's supposed, like you never quite feel that sense of weight because it is the 100 Years War, and it wants, like, even in the cutscenes it shows all these like not rogue soldiers, but soldiers that are on your side, and they're like climbing up ladders, scaling like castles, and doing all this stuff. But like when it cuts to the gameplay, it's just like you and like 6 other guys.
Yeah.
And it's just,
or even
so
worse,
like,
they'll like bring them into the battle beforehand just to kill them off and
Kill
be
them,
like,
yeah.
oh no, we're surrounded. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, bro, I need you to put them in the battle, bro, please.
Yeah. It's definitely like a design decision because of the limitations, and maybe because you don't want to be controlling that many people. It gets a little tedious to control even 7 people like in a row in a SRPG, but I don't know, that's something that I noticed, that the battles, when they're trying to express this like overwhelming like two armies battling, but it's really just like 14 versus 7 people on the battlefield. So it really reduces the weight of it. That's something that I noticed.
Yeah. And it makes me think, because I believe Suikoden does large scale battles. I believe they have like the small scale and the large scale battles that you can do. But I don't know. I feel like that might be too out of scope when it comes to Jeanne D'Arc, because when it comes to Jeanne D'Arc, especially thinking about what else they had to incorporate inside of this one tiny little cartridge, and they can't do like a hot swap, like, oh, switch to disc 2. Like, there's a lot of FMVs. There's a lot of anime cutscenes in this game, and a lot of voice acting and audio. So this game was jam-packed with audio visuals from top to bottom, which is surprising for a handheld game such as this. But, I mean, at the time, this is unprecedented. So even the fact that we got pretty much essentially a full OVA anime built into this game on top of all the voice acting, sound effects, and a 50-hour JRPG.
Yeah.
That's enough right there to say that that's impressive from a technical standpoint, at least.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of like graphical, I don't know, graphics per inch or like a production square inch, where basically you can sort of see where all the money went, because it didn't go into the maps, like the way the game is structured, you're just going stage to stage to stage. So you only ever see these 3D environments, which look amazing, by the way. But when you're not in that stage, you're on this like JPEG of a map and going to nodes. And so you don't get quite a good sense of like scale a lot of the time, or placement. You don't get a good sense of geography because you're just going into these nodes and it's like the stage. And I mean, I don't want to say it reminds me like a mobile game because this predated the way mobile games are. But that's sort of
it does feel that way
you know.
because you don't understand what's at stake because there isn't like a point of no return when it comes to these stages. No matter if the situation is, oh, we're escaping, I can still go on the world map and walk back and go grind in another spot, or go to town and
Yeah.
get me some consumables and then go escape in the
Yeah.
area or whatever needs to be done. So I guess, it does
Yeah, it's
seem a little bit.
I mean, Tactics Ogre is very much stage based like this, where it's like a map. The map is more of like it looks like a traditional like cartographer's map, like like when you're conjuring up an image of a map in your mind, it looks more like that. So you kind of get the sense of like, oh wow, okay, I'm traveling from this continent to like this region. But I feel like the map, the way it's presented in in uh in Jeanne d'Arc, it feels like a zoomed in, like truncated version of France. And I don't know, I never really quite liked it because I never just got this spatial sense.
Right.
And I think that's where they cut. I think that's where they cut corners, obviously, because once you go into each node on that map, the
They're pretty
detail of the
expensive.
environments are, yeah, they're gorgeous. And I wish you could like explore it in a different way sometimes. Like you can only ever interact with these spaces in the in the set of a battlefield. So you can never just like walk around or like go to
A town,
okay,
or just
exactly.
walk around and go like, I'm going to the armor shop of Paris or something like that.
Exactly.
Every shop
Like a
looks the
hub.
same. They don't even though they have different inventories, every shop looks the same. So you never really get a
Yes.
sense of like, oh, this is the Paris shop. There's the Eiffel Tower
Right.
in the background or something. Just
Yeah,
something.
I mean,
that's differentiate.
I think that would have went a long way for the presentation and preserving the scale of this war that you're in, because you go to these towns and it's weird because you go to the town and there's a cutscene that plays, and you're in this environment and you can see it. You're in an office or you're in a courtroom or whatever.
Banquet or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. But then when that cutscene ends and you're back on the world map, you go back, you only have the option to like go to the shop or store or whatever. And it just takes you to a flat JPEG screen. I'm like, why couldn't it just be like in that world? And there's like a few NPCs that you can talk to maybe flesh out what's going on. And then you just go to just like a hub.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have the resources and maybe just they had to cut it because development time. But it does feel a little like they were either, strapped for time or they ran out of money or something, because I do feel like it just sort of cuts the level of presentation. Because, okay. So there's another PSP.
Because I'm trying to think of like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just thinking about the other level 5 games that were released, because I do know that they were working on an MMO for Xbox at this time. That was canceled, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Then they were working on. They just released Dark
of...
Cloud. They just released Rogue Galaxy, and they're about to release Professor Layton in White Knight Chronicles.
They must have been split for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely a B team effort.
I think it's a fair criticism, even though it's an older game and a limited, PSP game, like a handheld game. But I think I've played enough PSP games to know that there is some pretty incredible shit that can be done with hub worlds.
Third birthday looks crazy.
Okay. There's a Digimon game called Digimon World. I can't remember the name.
Are you talking about
And I
Data
haven't.
Squad?
No, it's not Data Squad. I forget the name of it.
Or are you talking about the one that's like it's like a I know which one you're talking about because it retells some of the Digimon anime in it. Redigitized, that's what I think you're talking about. Right?
Yeah, I think so. I actually am. I was playing a little bit of it a couple days ago. But now I can't fucking. I can't
Because there's
check the name.
one where
But
it's like Digimon World redigitized, and then there's like the one where it's
that's
just like a
that might be
retelling
it.
of the anime.
I
And
think it's
both of them are crazy.
redigitized. Yeah, there's like a whole like hub world and places you can walk around, and it just feels very expansive and very impressive for a PSP game. But I've seen it with so many other games too, where there's like, I mean, people have squeezed so much out of that system, so I feel like they definitely cut back a bit because of either time constraints, or money constraints. I don't know,
Something they were
but
working on a lot
yeah,
of stuff at this time, so it was probably one of the other or something of the sorts like that. Because they're making Dragon Quest too. What was it, Dragon Quest 9? So they were just
Jesus, yeah,
all over the place, man. Speaking of all over the place, the camera could definitely use some work with this game. I get it. This is not a Jeanne D'Arc issue. This is a PSP issue because there's not a right analog stick. A lot of games had to
yeah,
use the D-pad, but then the D-pad is also what you use to actually do stuff. So it's kind of like hard dichotomy of little D-pad and left stick all in one finger, one thumb
hmm
trying to maneuver. There was a lot of times where the camera would swirl around to like show somebody getting hit, and I can't even see the damage numbers or if that person or who got hit, and I'm just like, I don't know, somebody got hit behind this wall right here, but I don't know
yeah,
because the camera swirled, or like trying to move it and it's like two up or two down. You can't zoom it out. You can zoom in, but you can't zoom out far enough.
yeah, yeah.
It it would suck a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not the best camera, but for a strategy RPG, the fact that it even allows you to rotate alone is enough to be like, okay, I get you. That's better than some strategy RPGs.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty sure it's like a standard camera, but I think what gets in the way here is the 3D models. How everything is rendered in 3D, trees, hills and everything. And so there's a lot of times where things get a little cramped and there's so many 3D models stacked on top of each other depending on your angle. It really like I mean I was constantly shifting the camera myself and trying to find a good angle, and it always seemed like every other turn I was moving the camera. I've always felt that that was a me thing, but it's interesting to hear that you also had the same
No,
issue.
yeah.
I
Every
I
PSP
really
game I have this issue. It could be Daxter. I'll have this
yeah
issue, man.
I do love the environments and like I mean, one of the things I like about SRPGs is how it looks like a little like diorama set. Like it's just like this little plane of existence. It's all black all around it, and it's just like a cutout chunk of land. Um, and I love that. But yeah, the camera, you're fighting it quite a bit, and obviously in more like in third person games on the PSP, it's also even worse. I think it's just difficult because of the 3D aspect of having physical trees and buildings in the way. Like there's one map where you're in the like a small town. The actual movement space is so narrow, so every angle you're at is blocked by
I know
a
the exact mission
house.
you're talking about, and you have to
Yeah.
pretty much just do it from a
You
top
had
down
the yeah,
perspective.
you had exactly, yeah. Which isn't like the worst, but that's kind of
I want
I
to see the
don't
3D
want to
models. I like seeing it from an
yeah.
angle, like the
Yeah,
isometric view.
exactly. So, I don't know. It's definitely a bit tricky, but
Yeah.
I think it's par for the course with those games, with SRPGs.
What did you think of the soundtrack?
I didn't like the soundtrack. I
Thank
didn't
you.
like I didn't like a single I
Oh,
didn't I wrote that the music was terrible, but I think that's too harsh. I just think that whatever
it's annoying after a
soundscape,
while.
yeah, I turned it down. I was like, this is the same. It's the same music for your turn and the same music for the enemy's turn. and the music anywhere. I just like, this is just not. I don't know if it's the quality of the music. Like, it's not chiptune, but it's like a very lo-fi,
It is
or
like
not
a
lo-fi,
MIDI,
but
like you can tell it's like a MIDI vibe where they're just
yeah,
pressing, but it's like the same because there's a shop theme, there's a world
yeah,
map theme, there's a battle theme,
yeah.
and that doesn't really differentiate. So even if you're fighting, I mean, I think there's a couple different, like I think there's like a couple boss battles against the Reapers that have a different theme, but
Mhm.
every single battle, and there's like 50, not counting like the free battles that, and they all
Yeah.
have that da, 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 da. It's like after a while you're like, I don't want to hear this shit no more, especially when you're
Exactly. Yeah.
grinding, because you're gonna have to
Yeah.
grind in this game. So it's just
Mhm.
like, please give me something different to hear. But
Yes.
but a lot of the menu sounds just also didn't sound good, like the chime of moving on the menu and like the bind skill sound.
Mhm.
I thought both of those were really annoying after a while, but that might just be because that's the majority of the thing I did in this game was bind skills and navigate
70, yeah,
menus.
70%. Yeah. I think I mean, speaking of sound, I thought that the actual sound effects of the battles were good. I thought that sounded like really crisp, really chunky. It felt satisfying. You know, when you got like a critical hit and that
Yeah,
light would just
the
come out of
glistening
them, and
sound,
yeah, yeah, it was so satisfying.
or the
And
sound when you get a counter, or
yeah,
yeah, those all
yeah,
sounded really good.
really, really good sounds, really great sound design, but the music, yeah, was just incredibly unflattering for I mean, when I think about it, if it had anything grander or anything like more orchestral, maybe it would have not matched with the sort of small scale feel that it's, you know, sort of has. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
I don't
guess a
know.
lot of people that were playing this, because I have to take into account that we played this game differently than a lot of people have played this game. Like most people that would have probably played this game would have, either had plugged
headphones.
in headphones or
Yeah.
not listened to anything at all in the backseat of mom's car or something like
Yeah,
that.
turned all the way down.
Yeah, so they won't even hear the sound effects. They're just playing a quick little skirmish and then going to grandma's house or going to church or something. So
yes. Yeah.
It could be different from us sitting down, blasting it on the big screen TV, playing this for hours, being like, "Oh man, all right, I get it." You know.
Did you play it on your big screen?
Yeah, I played it on the big screen the entire time.
Oh shit. Okay, I thought you played it on
couch.
your Steam. Okay.
Yeah, I think I only played a couple times sitting like in bed or like on the toilet or something like that while grinding, like doing the dragon fights and stuff like that, trying to get some people up to scale and stuff. But other than that, I played it strictly on the big screen, and that's why I didn't buy it on PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I played it on the PSP mainly, so I turned up like the sound, and after a while I was just like, nah, I think I'm done. And I think for the first like 10 hours I put headphones on, because I feel like that really gets me more into a game if I like really like just put headphones on. Like if I try to put my headphones on when I'm first starting a game, because I feel like it really sucks me in and I have no distractions and it feels like I'm in that world. But I think that soundtrack just starts to drive me insane after a while. So yeah, music is not great. Real back to the sort of the graphical models. I did think it was a nice touch that they had different weapon models, because obviously the gear that you get, they weren't going to be changing like the look of your, which would be so cool. Obviously, I'd love that. And there are a lot of different character models, like Jeanne and Roger and Lahire. They're all like different sizes and shapes, so maybe it wouldn't have worked that way. But it was nice that they at least gave a different visual like identifier to each weapon that you had, so you kind of could see that it was like a new weapon. Yeah, I liked that. I thought that was a nice touch.
But I didn't like that the different crystal forms were just recolors. That made me
mad. Yeah. Yeah. That was
Every time I got a new one, I was like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see this new form. What is it gonna look
yeah,
like?" And then you press it, and it's like now
just
instead of blue, it's red. It's like, all
yeah.
right, bro. Thanks. There's no
I think
significance in power. Thank you.
did I think Jeanne had two different ones, right? She had a couple. Am I remembering right here? She got, or maybe I'm thinking about when
Oh yeah, it
her
switched up
friend.
when Elaine got it.
Yeah. Okay,
She had a
okay,
different
that's what
form.
okay, yeah.
I
So
do
maybe
think the
yeah.
third form was different though. I think the third form was like a full set of armor, like a
Yeah.
golden
Yeah,
thing, but everything
I
else was
remember
just
one being
regular.
different. Yeah, it was definitely a little, and that's what I'm saying. I think that this game was made on a budget. There was a lot of constraints, but I think they made the most of it. But it makes you wonder, like, wow, if they had maybe had more time, if they made a sequel or a remake, what they could really do with some of this stuff, because there's some really cool ideas that just could be fleshed out to give the presentation more oomph, to give it more
Nah,
vigor.
man. I just had a fever dream of like this game, but in the Valkyrie Chronicles style.
Oh,
That
that
would
would
be
be.
really cool.
See, Valkyrie Chronicles is a good SRPG that really like feels like a war. Like skirmishes are happening. It
There's
feels like
tanks blasting, like
yeah,
you got to get covered. It feels like that. Like if
yeah.
imagining that, but like arrows flying by, and you have to
Yes.
run past real fast to go slice some dude or something like that. That'll
That
be
is that is a genius idea. By the way, those games are hard. I tried both of them. I'm like, damn. I almost beat the first one, got stuck, and I was like, fuck it, let me move on to the second one. And then I
and it
got
was even
stuck
worse.
again. But they're so cool. I love those games. Um, Games I always forget to mention, but I really do love them. I forget to mention them because I haven't finished them,
I
and
think
I
one's
feel
on the
like I
list. I think the first one's on the list. I think. Yeah, I think
is
so.
it or oh okay. I would think that the hack and slash one is on the list because that's the boater one.
I think that's the only one I
Upper
own actually.
Valkyrie Revolution or something like that, right? Valkyrie
Yeah,
Chronicles
that
Revolution.
generic ass one with the dude on the cover.
Yeah. Is that
Yep,
what it's called?
Valkyria Revolution. Yeah, the very first comment is Valkyria Revolution actually bad, or is it just not what fans wanted?
Yeah,
That
that's fair.
sounds
That's a
Boater,
fair
all
question.
right.
That sounds super boater. Add that to the list. So, I wanted to talk a bit more about some of the models because I think they did a really remarkable job. A remarkable job. So, I mentioned earlier how they had each character kind of have a different shape and form. Like there are big characters like Lahire, and they have who's I think a lion, and then there's like a dog character, and then there's just like normal people. There's an elves, and they all have different shapes and sizes. I think that's really cool. And then what's cooler to me is that they did Cusis, which is the frog, and he has like his own set of animations, and he has his little sword that he holds in his mouth, which I thought
Yes.
was like just a really fun. I was like, that's so cool that they like actually did a whole separate. It's kind of like with Final Fantasy, like the remakes, how they have Red 13 and he's like a dog, and it's just cool that they animated the dog doing all this stuff, because he's a different form, he's a different
Yeah.
body altogether. So I really liked that they did the frog animations, and even when he transforms, they give him like a little helmet. He looks goofy as fuck.
Which is
But
actually a very funny thing because the same exact frog is in Rogue Galaxy, and he has the exact same purpose of like combining items.
really,
Yeah.
you know what?
That's
I think I remember
that's the
that.
only thing I
Yeah,
remember about the frog. So when I saw the frog, I was like, that's the same
that's a
I just
level
thought it
five
was like
thing.
a level 5 thing. But I mean, it's not in Dark Cloud, so I was like, maybe this starts it and it's gonna be one in Nino
Yeah.
Kuni or something like that.
Yeah,
But
maybe. I feel like I've seen a feature. I knew I've seen a feature like that before because I was going in the gameplay section. I was going to talk about how I thought it was or I guess a presentation. It was kind of clever that they used an in-game character model to sort of blend with the crafting component, because they could have just been like, you see it in games all the time where it's just like select this piece of armor and this gem, and then fucking shiny success. You know, like there's nothing really like fantastic about it.
Why you
But
just
this was
call
like
out
an
a
actual.
terrier like that? The whole series? You're just gonna call out the whole franchise like that? That's
Well, I was
crazy.
thinking more of like Warriors, where it's just like the screen is just select this weapon, combine them, success or whatever. Like when you're
I'll give him
adding
the
like
excuse. There you have 1,000 people on screen. We don't
fair.
need to watch some crap.
But yeah, I guess Altelier is definitely could do
Yeah.
more with that and be more creative. But yeah, I just thought it was really cool. And before we leave presentation, do you have a like a favorite stage or a moment where you were like, "Damn, this game is really looks good," or is like a really
Uh
cool stage or something?
yes, there's two specifically that stand out. There's one where there's a waterfall in the middle of the battle. That one I thought was really cool. It's like a waterfall. There's grass on one side, and then on the other side is the castle. And you can go up the waterfall or down the waterfall, and it
Yeah.
changes your movement speed depending on the situation. I thought that was really cool. There's actually a lot of standout levels. Now that I think about it, there's the one
They were
with
really
where you
creative.
use the thief and you have to like shoot the arrows at the guy to steal the thing from him. I thought that was a really cool level where you have to make the ladders to climb the rooftops.
Oh, right. Yeah. That one's a good
That one
one.
was cool. There's one boss battle, I think, against the first Reaper, where the church door closes on Jeanne. So you have to go around the
Go
side
around.
and break the glass to come in through the other side. That one was
Yeah.
pretty cool. There's a lot of cool levels in this one. Now I think about it. They
Yeah.
all fit. Like you said, like they're very dioramic of how they're presented, and each one just has like a little subset of what was going on in that situation. There's also the forest where you get the gems when you fight the demon beast, where it's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
Gene and the other guy, the spear guy. I thought that one was very beautiful compared to the rest of the stages, but you don't really spend enough time in it to really digest it. But I thought that one was a really nice stage. There's a lot of good ones. The Coliseum was really cool.
Yeah, I think the environment design is, or the level design, the stage design is really, really good here. They have some very beautiful stages, pretty to look at, but also fun gimmicks. One of the ones that really took me aback, where I was like, "Oh wow, we're going here," is I wrote it down. Stage 32, Captive Heart, and that's so you're on this what looks like a cement block, and there's like a heart in the middle with chains going through it, and you're like
I
essentially
completely
in a
forgot about that stage where it's like inside of.
yeah.
Yes, I remember
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, I think yeah. Is it it's inside of G? Is it inside of John? I don't know who's in. Yeah, I
It's
can't remember, but
it's inside of somebody's psyche or
maybe
something like that.
Leanne or something. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
but
Leanne, and then you go in and you something with her. I don't know,
yeah,
but and then Leanne comes out because she was spoilers. This should
yeah.
already be determined, but yeah.
It's such a beautiful, like I would just spin the camera around. I'm like, this is so cool looking, and it's just stuck on the stage. But a lot of the levels, a lot of the towns, they're so beautiful, like just well realized. I think if you're a fan of like dioramas and that kind of stuff, this game has some like really, really great level designs. Some fun ones too. The one I hated though is the when they were in the dark forest where the elf lives. When they go to the elf kingdom, and it's like trees, right? And it's like
Oh
canopies,
yeah, and the banners and stuff like that. Yeah, the not
and
banners,
it's
bridges.
yeah, there's a bunch of bridges, and your team, you have to place your team in specific spots. You can't have them all together like you usually do. And you have to prevent, I forget who it is, but you have to prevent one of the enemies from reaching the main like castle there. Or not castle, but it's like a sanctuary of sorts. It's so I hated that was such an ugly level. There's so many like choke points that would just be like, I don't know. Not a great level. Cool looking, but just not one like not a fun one to play on. But that's all I got for presentation. You got anything more?
No,
Rate it out of 5. Presentation.
out of 5 presentation. Oh man, don't
No,
put me
no,
on the spot.
give it a score.
Give it a score.
A to F. S to F.
Are we switching it up this season? Okay. I give it a B.
A B's
give
good.
it a
That's
B.
what I would give it. Well, okay. I would give it an A because of the context. It's a PSP game.
And
I'd
for
give
the
it an
time.
A
Yeah,
overall.
I agree. My initial first thought was an A because
Yeah.
it looks good for a PSP game. And even now, when I think about all PSP games, because I was even looking up like what PSP games came out around this time and stuff like that, specifically in this JRPG niche, yes, this is one of the best looking JRPGs on the PSP. And if this was released on PlayStation 2, it would still be one of the best looking JRPGs. Yeah. So I give it that.
Well, especially because it's an early PSP game, right? 2007, 2006.
Yeah, when did the PSP come out? What, 05?
I thought it was 2005.
I don't know, bro. I swear to God, I was playing with a PSP in like 3rd grade, bro.
Maybe
2004.
2004.
Wow.
So then, I guess, well, maybe not the early PSP days, but it was like in the middle.
It was
like
early PSP.
Well, because how long was the PSP era for? Wasn't it like a...
When did the Vita come out? Vita came out 2012?
Yeah, 2012. That sounds about right. Yeah. So 2004. Yeah. Okay. 8 years.
Yeah.
Not even.
So it was about, it was like a mid-level. Because this is right around the time. Because this came out the same day BioShock 1 came out. And BioShock 1 was like an early PS3 Xbox 360 title. So.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like right at the cusp of next gen. So this is when it became like next gen PSP games. Yeah. Don't quote us on that.
Yeah. I can't wait for people to be like, God, these niggas are fucking stupid.
Was it Slim out by that time? The Slim was about to come out.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's still fat PSP time. So yeah, it was early PSP. Yeah. If the Slim wasn't out, then it wasn't. All right, yeah.
Well, we can think of it as it was being developed in the early stages of PSP, and it was released like early mid.
You're right.
PSP life cycle. But anyways, let's get into story. So
Roger's an annoying character. Let's just get this out the way.
I thought you were gonna be like, I fuck with Roger. I thought that so hard. Yeah, I really fuck with him. That's what I was waiting for.
I fuck with that nigga.
The story is interesting because it's based off of actual events, and it really gave me Eternal Sonata vibes, where a Japanese studio is like, oh, here's an interesting Western piece of history, or this figure in history that is well known. In Eternal Sonata, it was Frederick Chopin, and then in this, it's Jeanne D'Arc. I thought that was kind of interesting because like you don't see Western games making well, except for Ghost of Tsushima, but you don't really see them making
Assassin's Creed Shadow.
Which, yeah, those are relatively new, but you don't really see, like, us Westerners, our Western developers, you don't see them making games about Japanese historical figures or moments in Japanese, like, history. Like, you don't see fucking the God of War devs being like, yo, let's make a Nobunaga game.
Yeah.
I love that was the first nigga you thought of.
It's the only person I can think of.
And honestly, I could be wrong. I'm trying to like rack my brain. I'm like, okay, is there any Western developers prominent that have like focused on like a,
other
Japanese...
than Ghost of Tsushima? I really can't.
That has to be
anymore.
Yeah, but it has to be like, because Ghost of Tsushima is still more fiction, I think, right, than it is historic. I think like
it's set in a historical time. But mostly fiction.
The story, yeah. It's really interesting that they were like, hey, let's take a moment of Western history, and then let's fucking animify it,
just full anime it up. Let's add demons. Let's add cat ladies.
Yeah, power levels. Magic. Yeah, cat ladies. That's right.
Squirrel girl cat transformation.
Elves. Let's do elves, frogs, all of that.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. I feel like I learned about Joan of Arc at some point, but never really studied it. So when I went into this, I didn't really know exactly the series of events and the order that they took place in. I read about it after I played the game.
Yeah, and this is
which
funny
maybe
because
would
this
have
is the
been.
second game starring Jeanne D'Arc that we've played.
I was gonna, yeah, yeah.
We still
Bladestorm
don't know.
was, yeah. I was gonna mention that at some point here, because I don't remember really talking about it too much at that time, but maybe we did. I don't know.
But I do know that there
Um,
was a lot more players involved with when it came to Bladestorm compared to because it was about the entire 100-Year War. So there was like was it
right,
Prince Edward or Prince Williams?
something like that. Yeah,
Because they call
yeah.
him the
Because I
Black
had it.
Prince. Then they had different mercenaries and famous strategists and warriors around that time. So I mean, there was more to Bladestorm when it came to telling the overall 100-Year War. But this tells a, I would say, Joan Arc's story, the animification of the 100-Year War, and specifically this period of time for Joan Arc, is a good thing and a bad thing. Because unlike Eternal Sonata, where you can kind of immediately devolve any sense of truth from this, but when it
Right,
comes to
right.
Eternal Sonata, when you finish a certain section of the game, they sit you
It,
down and have a historical lesson to tell you this is what was going on with Frederick Chopin,
yeah,
so you don't like
yeah.
you don't misconstrue. This is what's really happening, and then this is the
Mm-hmm.
dream world that we're telling you, so you can continue having your JRPG story. So, I mean, they could have did that, but I don't think they would do that because there's no need to do it. And I think that's the issue that I start to have when it comes to Joan Arc is around the halfway mark. And I'm starting to notice this trend when it comes to JRPGs. A lot of them start to go off the rails.
Yes.
You have your set destination, you have your rising action, you have exactly who your antagonist is and what you need to do. And then they go, let's rise the stakes to 20 and let's add some metaphysical, let's add some gods, let's add some demons, and it starts to fall apart towards that part. As soon as they introduce the Reapers, I think that's where the plot falls for me, and it doesn't really hit. And after that point, I stopped treating it as this cool little story starring Joan Arc
Yeah.
and standard JRPG. Now we just got to stop these people from destroying the world. And it kind of made the later half of the game feel like I was just playing a strategy JRPG instead
Yes.
of the
Ignoring the
cool
story.
Jeanne D'Arc that I was playing.
Yeah, I wrote that basically the first chapters are simple, and the setup and the story for it, like the motivations for the characters, all feel very like it's pretty well written to a degree in the beginning, at least, like to get you on board. Humble beginnings, burned home. They got to go leave the nest. They have to, brave the world essentially, and grow up a little bit, and starts to introduce the elements of the armlet and magic early on. I think the opening scene really should have been an indicator of how off the rails this would become, because the first anime cutscene is of Prince Charles as a kid and his father and
I think it's
uncle
his,
fighting. I can't remember who it is,
yeah, I
but
think it's
it's
his uncle and then like the general, I think. And he
okay.
kills
So
the uncle kills the guy. And he's like
he's
obviously the most evil person. It's like, yeah, we
yeah,
gave him an armlet. It's
yeah,
like, bro, he looks evil. He looks like Aku
yeah.
from Samurai Jack. Like, what are
Yes,
we
he
doing?
does. He, the guy that looks evil is evil, and I was hoping for like some sort of redemption twist to give it a bit more complexity, but just like, oh yeah, you're so clearly evil. And then a demon possesses the little boy, so it's already kind of like, okay, you got your typical black shadow anime hands reaching out of a void, grabbing things. We've seen it a billion times if you watch anime or anything like that. But so I should have known that it was gonna go off the rails to like this absurd degree.
Yeah. But I mean,
I
that's not
just
bad to have those generic anime tropes, when you're telling the story. Because, I mean, you're already telling people, like, hey, this is Joan Arc starring monsters, magic, and demons.
right,
So
right. Yeah, it
that's
sets it
okay.
up in a way. Yeah, it sets it up in a way where you're like, okay, But I think at some point it becomes, one is when you're fighting the same person over and over again. You're fighting what's his face? Who was it?
Talbot
Yeah, you fight the nigga like 7 times.
in a row,
And
bro.
I'm just like, do we have no one else to go up against? You know? And it feels very gamey where it's like it feels like a video game because it's like, am I killing him? Like, I would have almost preferred if you whittle his health down to half and then he escapes. But it's like you have to get his health all the way down, and then it's just like, oh, he's kind of dead, but he leaves and you fight him 7 more times. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just like the
hate
story between
any game where you beat a person and after the cutscene, your characters are like, oh my god,
so many
that was a
games
hard
are
fight,
like
and it's
that.
like,
Yeah.
bro, I just beat his ass. Like, even
Yeah,
if like
yeah.
I would have liked it, even if like, because the thing is that they set the precedent later in the game that there's split timelines. Like you can choose, like, hey, do you want to go and help out this elf village, or do you want to go
Right.
help out this sea town? Like they set the precedent that there's split routes in the game. So why not have a split route for on this mission when you're supposed to escape? What if I just kill Talbot? Will that skip the next 2 levels and we just escape? Or will I have to escape and then the next match I'll fight Talbot? Give
Yeah.
me an incentive as a player with the story and not just have it to where I defeated this character and you act like nothing happened and it's just there for
Yeah.
EXP. Like it got to the point where the completionist in me would try to kill everything on the stage before ending the stage. Like that's usually how I would like to finish a stage. It's just, try to get all the treasure, try
Yeah,
to
yeah.
defeat all the people, see what they drop and stuff like that. So you're killing these bosses, you're repeating stages over and over again to try to get that right RNG so that you can kill this boss. And then you kill this boss and they show up in the story just for the next story mission. You have to defeat this boss. It's very
Again.
demoralizing.
It is. I think it takes the wind out of the sails of the story, and it becomes grating, and then it starts to show like, oh, it's more video game than, like, it cares to be more a video game than it does to be like a cohesive story, you
Right.
know. And I think that took me out of the story early on, because you fight him a lot early on. Obviously, at some point he switches over to your side towards the end, but that mix of character storytelling with gameplay necessity gets muddled when the stuff that we're describing happens, because it's just like, fuck, dude, I've fought and you like, and then there are other people you fight about 3 or 4 times too, and
Yeah, like all
it
the
made it
cat
feel
people, like
like they just needed to like expand the runtime or something, because I'm just like, why are we fighting again, dude? Like, what the fuck's going on?
yeah.
Like the Reavers, you fight them once, right? No, you technically fight them twice, because later on
Yes,
they
because you
reappear
fight
at the
him during
last
the
stage.
final boss, right before the final boss, yeah. So I don't know. That's another thing I was going to say, because the Reaper specifically felt ham-fisted towards the end of the game, and at that point, I think I made my characters broken, so they weren't all that difficult. They were just very tedious to get through because of
Hmm.
their health pools and if they accidentally kill one character and stuff like that. That
Yeah,
honestly, I would have liked it better if the Reapers, because they felt out of nowhere. Like, of course, they were alluded to, where like, oh, Rogers, something's crazy's going on with him. But I would have
yeah,
liked it more if they were alluded to earlier in your story instead of me fighting my first Reaper at like stage 25 out of 35. I fought my first Reaper at like, if Talbot was a Reaper, if we fought Talbot for one stage and then he transforms into a Reaper, we fight him. That would have been
yeah,
more interesting to let you know that like these are a thing. These
yeah.
may occur. These are going to be your super hard boss battles, and get prepared. But it just snowballed a lot towards that ending point, especially with the final boss. And I specifically, and this is why I mentioned Roger as soon as we started this. Roger's turn to the dark side, I thought,
Mm.
was, I'm trying to think of a nicer way to say this instead of
What
what I was going to say.
they set it up, but I think it's so
It's lame.
it's
It's
just over.
incredibly lame.
It's just so, like, I don't want to say cliche, because I think it's a poorly done cliche.
Let me
I
guess.
would.
Yuri Lowenthal is going to turn evil. Like, it's
Yeah.
so. I think his character, even after he changes, makes no sense because he doesn't do anything to necessarily get in your way, other than like one mission where he's like, "I'm trying to kill you," but other than that, he doesn't really get in your way. He just does his own thing in the background and then reappears towards the end of the game under level to just be annoying and be lose condition.
Yeah. Oh my
Or
god. Yes.
Leanne, who takes Jean's spot when she dies halfway through the story, and it just feels out of character for her to willingly throw herself into the fire when she's already been shown to be like, I mean, she's willing to fight, obviously she's fighting with John, but it just feels out of place for her to take that spot and go in blindly. But I guess that's more metaphorical to talk about, the symbol of Jeanne D'Arc.
Yeah. Let's talk about that real quick. So there's a moment in real history. Jeanne is she helps the prince become the rightful king of France. And after that, she goes on her own crusade and she gets captured by the English, I believe. And then they burn her at the stake, essentially, from what I was reading. So that's a very pivotal moment because she dies years later. The prince that she helped put into power essentially grants her status of a martyr and gets all the charges that she was convicted of. She gets those cleared, or he gets those cleared for her. That's years later. There's a lot of interesting like moral and political aspects to the story of Joan of Arc, and a lot of like religious aspects. And I feel like this story sort of strips away all the stuff that makes it real and interesting and fascinating, and in place of that puts these sort of generic anime tropes like coming back to life. Or okay, so when Jean dies in the game, which is true to the history, right? She dies a different way in the game. Not Jean. When Jean dies, she falls off a cliff, right? And I'm like, oh shit, like she's actually dead. And Leanne has to take her place. Leanne is her timid friend, so it's kind of fun and interesting to see her have to take this place of the tough Jean, who's like very, like straightforward and strong headed. Leanne is very timid and shy, and so she has to take that role. And so she does, and she has to impersonate Jean, and she comes into her own. And then she gets captured at a different time from the actual historical like time period. As she's parading around as Jean, she gets captured and she gets almost burned, but then they don't. Right? Wait, does she get burned? I can't remember.
No, she does get burned.
She does.
She does.
But then they
die
bring her
during the
back to
situation.
life somehow, right?
Yeah, by going in and fighting the Reapers in her mind or something.
I'm just like, what? And then they have Roger, of course, who's being a brat for half of the second act and just off fucking being all moody and emo. And then I don't know. It was just like, you guys are taking away so much of like the sacrifice or like just the intensity and the drama of the actual story. I feel like they didn't add anything to it. They actually just took away and replaced it with cliches and
Right.
like,
They use it
like
as a
it's really
backdrop.
weird.
It's like,
Yeah,
speaking of Nobunaga, it's how a lot of people use Nobunaga Oda now, where they just use him as the Onimusha is a great example of this. They use Nobunaga as the tell-all omniscient demon lord because that was his nickname back in the day.
Yeah.
And they don't take into account the nuance or any other side. Because, for example, Bladestorm takes into the historical standpoint that this was 100-year war, that there were situations, mercenaries, people that lived just to facilitate and finance this war. And that's the whole point of the game, is that you just play as a mercenary. You can play for
Any
England
side,
one day and France the next day. And it doesn't really necessarily say who the bad guy is. And of course, obviously,
Right.
Joan d'Arc is the main character. So the English are going to be bad guys, but they're so
Yeah,
comically bad that you can't take the nuance of the historical context that this game uses as a backdrop to
yeah,
really get a good sense, because the players, especially kids that are going to be playing this game, this is their introduction to Joan of Arc.
yeah,
This is their first, like how Samurai Warriors and Dynasty Warriors was my introduction to the Sengoku and Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
yeah, yeah,
This is their introduction into the 100-Year War. So
yeah,
unlike a Eternal Sonata with Frederick Chopin, even though if you're not going to add the literal, we're going to sit down and talk to you about the history while playing the songs, even though you're not adding that, Eternal Sonata still has situations with the characters, the story, even towards the end where it starts to become like where Frederick, where he goes, is this a dream? Is this a reality?
yeah,
This world is
yeah.
fantastical. How
Hmm.
the resistance is a whole thing that ties into the resistance with himself and brotherly love with siblings, and the like, it all ties into the actual person of Frederick Chopin and everything that was going on in his life to better paint.
Yeah,
Like at the end of Eternal Sonata, I felt like I was more knowledgeable about Frederick Chopin and his music and his life. I'm saying his name wrong still. I'm so sorry.
it's all good.
Than I was when I came in. And now I'm 2 games in to Joan of Arc, and I don't know fuck all about her. Still,
Hmm.
all I know is she was a cool lady that fought people in knight armor. That's
Well,
all I know.
what I've learned that was really special about her, like, was that she was so young in a time where a 16-year-old could not possibly be doing what she was doing. The fact that, like, a big thing that people really focus on is that she claimed that she had divine visions, which is a kind of a part of this game, but they kind of supplant that with the armlet thing being
Right.
sort of power thing. But in real life, Joan of Arc had visions of angels talking to her to do these things, and she did all of them. And like a lot of people thought it was like not blasphemy, but like miracles. Like she was doing shit that a 16-year-old should not have been doing, and that's why she's so special. One, because she's young, and you can think. I mean, I can see the Japanese being like, "Oh, a young protagonist, that's right up the anime, like young
Yeah.
protagoon, you know, like that's perfect." But like the fact that she had these visions in a time where people were doubting her, and these visions led her to do all these things that she succeeded in doing, you know, and then the fact that she was burned at the stake, you know, like basically the fact that she led this coalition, and God, I wish I could remember the name of the battle, but there was a key battle, and it's in the game, that needed to be won in order for this prince to be able to push back and reclaim his throne or take the throne or whatever.
Are you talking about
Um,
the, because there was something with actual Paris or something like that where they needed the pincer Paris?
yeah, I can't remember the fucking name, but
Yeah.
it was very important. Like those aspects aren't really. It's weird to call the game Jeanne d'Arc if you're not gonna actually like do anything with this character in a meaningful way. They focus so much on dark magic, armlet, like it just feels so
Finding the
cartoony.
armlets, and yeah, we need to stop the demons and the reapers,
The
you know.
dark elves, like they have a thing against like the all this stuff, or not the dark elves, but just the elves, you know, and it just feels so like it's taking away from her. Maybe if they named the game something else, where maybe it doesn't set the precedent that it's going to be about her and her journey, because
Yeah.
ultimately it feels like they do extend themselves too far, and it really takes away from the historical fact and also the intrigue that was that character.
Cause
um
granted, I mean, it is about Jun. It is about
right,
her from start to finish. It is about her and her journey. But
but you got Leanne in there, you got Roger in there, you got
yeah,
all
you
the
got
yeah, it's just
the beast and the elves, you got the demons. It just, after a while it starts to take away from what's really because okay, let me rephrase this, because you can make a game in historical context without having to be beholden
Accurate.
to
Or be
historical
yeah.
accuracy. For
Yes.
example, Assassin's Creed, Leonardo da Vinci did not invent the gun, you know,
Right. Right.
but you can take those liberties and go, okay, but that leads to good gameplay elements,
Hmm.
blase blah. We're fighting Fenrir. What was it? Anubis in Assassin's Creed Origin? You know, you this is all for the sake of
Anubis.
fun and gameplay. That's the apple
Right.
of Eden. That's the apple that niggas ate in the beginning of the world. Like, it's an
Right.
alien artifact. Cool. But it still allows for interpretation in terms of making a good game. And while Joan of Arc is a good game, period.
Hmm.
uh
Hmm.
Story wise, I feel like it does fall flat, especially with the presentation, because it's a lot of text, it's a lot of anime cutscenes with really weird.
Oh, you didn't like the anime cutscenes?
I like the anime cutscenes, but I
Hmm.
mean, like I said, it's just you see the anime cutscenes and then you see the gameplay, and everything's not really meshing
Oh, I see what you're
together
saying.
to
Yeah.
really like sell you that like this is, like you said, like you don't get the scale of like this is a battle and this is what's going on and this is how long it's taking to do this, so you don't really get that. So the story kind of falls flat, especially towards that later half, like I said, how it becomes just a standard JRPG party going to go fight demons. You lose that sense of this was a giant war that we were fighting.
I guess it's a matter of expectations. You know, there are a lot of games that are based in history. I think the fact that this is named after a character, it stars her primarily. She's like the main, and her friend takes up the mantle of Jeanne for a little bit. But I think nothing ever comes of it because it focuses so much on its plot with the characters and all like the different accoutrements of like, you know, all like the side shit that's sort of being added. It takes away from the real heft, and they never really. I feel like they never really address anything in any real way. Like, do they ever address who is speaking to her to take all these actions? Did it turn out to be like that tree or the arm or
Yeah,
something?
they said it was that tree, that the tree
Yeah,
was the first person that held the armlet and he was
that was
testing
talking
her.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And I would
Which
have
I
liked
feel
it if they
like,
just never explained that. If they was just
yeah,
like, it would have fit more into the historical context, like you said about the divine voice. Because I did, that just hit me just now that you said that about the her saying that this was all told to her from a divine intervention. So
yeah.
like that would have fit better
It
if like if
it
people were like, the
takes,
armlet doesn't talk to me. What are you talking about?
yeah, yeah. It ends up feeling like you took this sort of, I don't know, it just takes a little bit of the magic and the mystery, or like the sort of like, well, was it God who was speaking to her? It's a fucking the armlet was speaking to her. Like it just feels
Yeah, the
too
Jedi
like
Force
it,
ghost of the last guy is telling you to do this. All right, whatever.
yeah,
Sure, man.
yeah, yeah. Yes, exactly. It's just it doesn't work, and that's okay. But there are a couple scenes like I think Leanne having to fill out Jean's shoes, and there's a sequence where she's like, you know, becoming really excited and power hungry or power mad, and she's like telling everybody to storm this castle, but no one's like, you know, everybody's like, can you calm down? Like, we're not gonna, you know, have our whole army go and kill themselves. And, you know, it's very unlike Leanne to be so fucking like gung ho and, you know, essentially she was blood hungry,
Bloodthirsty.
bloodthirsty. Yes. And, yeah, so there was that really cool sequence, which I thought was like a good character moment. Apparently, that's also in in the history books as well, as far as the actual Jeanne d'Arc was doing some wild shit like that, where she almost got everybody killed and people were like retreating because she was trying to pump everybody up to go to, you know, to this battle, but there was essentially just one. It was a battle that they couldn't win, and yeah, they were like, all right, we need to fucking retreat, and she's trying to lead everybody into war. She's like, nah, we're not gonna do this time. I do like the fact that you brought up like the 2D cutscenes, which they like the anime cutscenes, and the, moments where it's just the 3D model standing in a room, all that stuff doesn't quite set. I mean, it's a curse sometimes with JRPGs, and it always has been. Just like, how do you sell all these disparate elements into one cohesive, like, story and visual style? Because you have like the overworld when they're like this little character walking in this fucking giant, and then you have them in battle, but then they're different when they're in towns, and then you have the cutscenes that are like an anime cutscene, which is, it's like, how do you? So it's,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can knock it for that, just because that was an issue of JRPGs for a very long time, which now we're obviously at the
I would
point
say
where
it's still a situation like that with some JRPGs now, even now. I think the only JRPG that genuinely felt like there wasn't a difference between, because there's the world building banter that JRPGs
yeah,
have, where characters sit around and they explain like, oh, this device must do this, huh? But then this must do this, huh? Well, I guess we gotta do this now. Okay, well, let's
right,
do that now. Like they have
right,
those moments. I think Final Fantasy 12 was the only game, even now that I think about it, to where it was okay for them to explain the world, because you have this rich aristocrat in Balthier and hundreds of year old bunny lady, and then you
right,
just
right,
have
yeah.
Vaughn, this street urchin, and he's like never been out of this city, and he's like, what the hell is
Yes.
what am I looking at? And so you get that juxtaposition of the rich aristocrat being like, well, I'll explain it to this little dork. I'll explain what's going on so he's not alone. And it's not
Yeah.
like I'm stopping and staring at the horizon. Metaphor does this a lot, where they have these little JPEGs of the world that you can't explore, you can't see. It's just a JPEG of some beautiful landscape, and they're like, this is some lore for the world. Here's some
Wow.
world
Okay.
building. We're not going to do anything else with it. Continue on. And it's like, no, that cool spot looks cool. I would like the dungeon to be that, other than some bullshit dungeon that I always get. Like, give me that.
Right.
I think that's the difference when it comes to JRPGs. But I mean,
Because I think
maybe.
of yeah, like I think Final Fantasy X obviously had the character models were all consistent across the cutscenes, the battles, and walking around the world. So everything felt like visually cohesive. Not even just JRPGs when I think about it. You had the CG cutscenes, the FMVs, where it was just like, clearly this is not what is in game. It's a lot nicer. It's a lot,
Yeah.
well, nicer at the time, right? The CG cutscenes, you're just like, or like Diablo, right? Like the cutscenes are just
Oh,
like
like
delicious.
Diablo.
It's like the Blizzard cutscenes. You're just like,
Insane
damn.
eldritch beings and crazy
Yeah.
shit is happening. And then you play the game and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
fireball. Or like a Devil May Cry or Stellar Blade character action games, where your character is doing the craziest shit in the cutscene, and then you go to play and you're just doing square, square, triangle.
Yeah, you're like, I can't move around like that. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Although I feel like that is another topic and problem on its own, because with Final Fantasy VII, like Rebirth or like the remake, I think now that the characters are doing those crazy, over the top anime esque attacks, it really is visual noise now, because you're just like every attack is like this fantastic grand thing. You're just like, damn, this is getting a little bit too much and a little unreadable.
Yeah,
Whereas I
I want to
remember
just
back
attack.
in, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's just evolved, and it's really the tech that allows the animators to make character movements feel so alive and all this. But I don't know. I feel like that's a whole status check
Yeah, we'll save that. We'll
topic.
put a pin in that. I'll save that for later.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for story that I wrote down. Did you have anything else?
You touched on the other 2 points that I had on story, so yeah.
Yeah, ending was lame.
The ending was so lame. I don't even remember what happened.
I wonder if people play SRPGs for the story or just for the strategic element of it. Because I don't think I've ever played it. There's not a lot of games, to be honest, that I play for a story. I'll be straightforward.
I don't play
But
any game for the story, to be honest with you.
yeah, there's not many. I mean, well, I'm playing Fate Samurai Remnant right now, and the story intrigued me, but then it got a little too. I'm just like, oh my god. Once mind control, once mind control is in the story, and you're just fighting niggas that were your allies, but now that I'm just like, okay, like I'm just, this is clear. you're writing around the gameplay now. Like you just need reasons for me to fight something. I'm like the story has lost all legitimacy. You know, I hate it so much. I mean, it's still like well written characters, I would say, but the story at large, I'm just like, since I'm gonna be playing the Mafia games, I think I'll be playing those for the story mainly. I heard they're like a good story, and then like
I can say
Deus
that
Ex
Mafia
as
3,
well.
I did have to stop because of how deep the story got. Like it kind of got a little, I don't want to say personal, but like just the historical standpoint of it all. It was like, it was too deep at a time that I wasn't like mentally and emotionally prepared to hear and see a lot of that. That I was like, let me just put this on the back burner. But I really did enjoy Mafia 3's story. It felt like it instantly locked me in. So I mean, I guess there is games where it's like Last of Us. Last of Us is a game where you instantly lock in. Like I'm here for the story.
Mm-hmm. Although I do like the gameplay of Last of Us too, to be honest.
Yeah, I did want to get. The only reason I wanted to get The Last of Us 2 remastered was just for that roguelike mode.
I mean, I think it was $10 for the upgrade, which is what I did.
Yeah,
I played it for like 20 hours. Like, it was fun.
I
still think about going back to it, but that's what I'm saying. Because I had the digital version of Last of Us, the PS4 version. You could upgrade to the PS5 version, and that gives you the rogue mode or whatever, the roguelite mode. And I did it. I bought it, and it's pretty fun. I like it a lot. Because the gameplay is just so solid, and it's just... I do wish it was a bit more fleshed out. Like, I would love to see it expand more. Because I feel like at some point, I was just like, okay, now I think I've seen everything, and now it's just rinse and repeat. So there's nothing new, but it's fun. Yeah, but let us know out there if you guys play SRPGs for the story. I mean, well, because fucking Disgaea, like, people love the characters.
But Disgaea is a visual novel.
Have you played a Disgaea game like all the way through?
No, not all the way through. I've played Disgaea 1. I've played a good little bit of it. Like I think I've played until
Disgaea 1 Hour of Darkness.
I probably played like the first like 4 or 5 hours of Disgaea 1 and 2. So but like a lot of that playtime, it's like Persona, where a lot of that playtime is watching cutscenes and listening.
They have a lot
and
of
reading
setup.
text. Yeah.
So they have a lot of setup.
You're locked in. You know what I'm saying? Like Record of Agrivis War is another one like that, to where you're listening and reading a lot of text before you're actually getting like into the weeds of the gameplay loop. They're not going to just throw you into a game and just do a bunch of stages. But I feel like
I would say that that's a JRPG issue at large for sure. But like Disgaea, I started with Disgaea 4. That was my first one, and I played like 100 hours of that game.
Oh my goodness, you're a brave soul.
Yeah, once you get like past the setup, like there's a lot of you could just grind gameplay. Like, the story beats are definitely like, okay, text heavy. Yeah, I would say that Persona is a series that is more like... I remember sitting... Persona 5. I remember sitting there at maybe the 60th hour, playing, and I think Elise was like, "Man, there's a lot of talking." And I'm like, "Yeah, I haven't got to play in like about an hour and a half, I would say." As like,
quite literally,
this is crazy.
Quite literally, my exact situation with Persona 5. But I mean, that also differs because I played Persona 3 and 4 before that, so I was already used to like, oh, it's gonna be like 20 hours before I actually play the game, and then you get to the casino, you're like, damn, you're still talking. Bro,
it didn't bother me at the time, but when I realized that I hadn't played in so long, because I was like pretty invested in the story and all that, but when I realized at some point, I was like, oh shit, I haven't played in like an hour. Like, I just been listening to these niggas talk, especially like when you like towards the end, I was getting antsy. I'm just like, fuck.
That's how Metaphor is too. That's why I was a little bit upset with Metaphor. It's because there comes a time where they give you that little chunk of like freedom to, mess around, do your thing, enjoy the gameplay loop, and then there's a certain section after that where it's like, all right, now we're gonna have 4 to 5 hours of just yapping, and you're like, bro, I sat down to play the game, but now I'm like,
Yeah.
it's been 2.5 hours. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I hadn't even played the game. All right, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
I just watched an episode of an anime, I guess.
You watched 3 movies, essentially. And not only that, but it's basically like, we're getting so off topic here, but it is like just the visual novel, text, character portrait. Text,
Yes.
Sometimes you're treated to a cool cutscene.
Yeah.
And I wish it was all cutscenes, but like a lot of the time it's just standing in a room and you're just like reading. And it's like, come on, just hurry up.
Not that I don't like reading. It's just that I just don't like. I'm here to game, man.
All right, let's jump into gameplay. So I'll start us off with enemy AI. All right, they are fucking aggressive and relentless, and I thought that was pretty cool because they would target your weakest fucking the weakest link. They always went after. I was like, God damn! Like they know who was like facing the wrong way, who had the least health, no defensive, all the time.
They knew who couldn't counter you. They was like, all right, bet I'm going out. Like you could have like 4 people surrounding them, and they'd be like, I'm going out of my way to kill him.
Or like the mages would just go after. Like it was pretty rare that they went after. Like you're playing the game and you are watching the enemy attack, and you're thinking like, okay, don't go for this, don't go for this. Almost every time they went for the person I didn't want them to go to. Sometimes I get lucky and they went for someone else. I'm like, okay, cool, because like Lahire could eat that because he's my tank. But a lot of the times they'd go after the weakest link, so you had to like keep them away and all that. But it made it really fun and challenging a lot of the times. I really, really enjoyed it. It made me think. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the enemy AI was great for most of the time until you get to like the bosses where sometimes they feel a little cheap. But
yeah, especially for like my first strategy RPG. And I think that's always been like the biggest stickler when it comes to the strategy RPG genre in general is that the difficulty, and most of the time they have permadeath involved with their characters and stuff like that. And I didn't know if this game had it. So that really like concerned me going into it, where I was like constantly restarting when somebody would die. Cause I'm like, I don't know. Until I realized that they'll just come back the next stage. But I was like, no, I need to keep them alive. I don't want them to die.
Okay.
So it, that anxiety of like, I don't want to lose this character scared me a lot from the beginning until I started to realize the systems and I started to learn and actually use the systems like they were intended. Like I thought the best mechanic that they added to this game was the armlet system. I thought that was really rewarding and really good, and it helped you with your placement, because I got to the point to where I was like, okay, I'm going to use these characters to weaken all of these different characters, and then I'm going to transform into Jeanne or transform. I forgot his. Is it? It's not Marco. Marco's the
Marcel.
Archer.
No.
Marcel. No.
Marcel's the archer.
Marcel's the archer. What is the purple hair?
Purple hair. I was trying to remember his name.
Is it Guinness? Gisses? Gasset? It starts with a G. I forgot.
It does it?
Gary? I don't know.
Go to him Greg for now. It's fine.
Yeah, Greg.
What the fuck was Greg's name?
Oh, man.
Marcus? There is a Marcus, though. There's a Marcel.
I don't know, man. I don't know none of these characters' names, bro.
Okay, next episode for sure. We have to write down names.
Yeah, next episode, we got to remember all of the hot, sexy ladies in the racing game. Yeah, sure, buddy.
We got to remember. we got to remember the names of the cars. Yeah, I was driving the Toyota Evo,
the box car.
Yeah, we sound like idiots. We're doing deep dives, and people are like, "These niggas don't even know."
They don't even know the characters' names, bro. That's my favorite character. No. I think, but no, they did specifically state level 5 that was their intent with making this game, was to make a strategy RPG that did appeal to veterans of the genre, but also was easy enough to coax people like me that were turned off from the genre into maybe trying another game. And this game did succeed in that, because I did think to myself, well, maybe I can try Disgaea now. Now that I understand that it's all about positioning. And it's not always about killing everything on screen, or, like it's not like other JRPGs where it's like I have to kill everything that's in my path. I have to do this flawlessly and have healers and all this stuff. You can just focus on the objective. Let me just kill this one guy, or let me just get to the point that I need to escape and focus like that. Yes. I think that from a introductory standpoint, that Jeanne D'Arc does a really good job at explain. Like I said, in the presentation section, having the ability to have guides and help that's very concise and succinct, that explains how and the best strategies in order to succeed, and using those strategies specifically in this game make it feels like those are fundamental strategies that are going to provide legacy skill for future strategy RPGs, such as positioning, such as using the thief to steal items, or using the archer to slowly weaken people, or having people that can counter and stuff like that. I feel like it was slowly teaching me the basic ropes through the mechanics of the game and from the help guides, so it can further succeed in future titles and not just this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, honestly, I think any strategy RPG is pretty intimidating to start. I think first off, for this game, the armlet system, we'll call it, really really speeds up battle. And I think SRPGs, like a lot of turn-based RPGs, like the battles can be long, but SRPGs, right? The battle can take up to like 45 minutes. It's like a MOBA, you know? Like you're locked in for that 45 minutes,
Right.
if not longer. And I think most turn-based RPGs, a battle with a monster will last fucking, I don't know, like 5 minutes, maybe less,
At
depending.
most.
And because the stages are based around the story, there's a lot going on and all that. So it's nice to be able to power up and then just have the Godspeed mechanic and just like run through all the enemies that you've sort of chipped away at. And for anyone listening, the Godspeed mechanic is basically when Jeanne uses her armlet to transform, if she one-shots an enemy, she can go another turn. She can only stay, I guess armlet users can only stay in their armlet form
3
or whatever.
turns? It was like 3 or 4 turns at most.
Yeah, I think it was 3 turns max.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it really speeds up battle because you can just like do what you were saying, which is chip away at enemies and then just turn Jeanne or whoever into their powered up form and then just knock them out, and then you just keep going like that, and it feels really satisfying. A lot of RPGs though, SRPGs, don't have that, so they're a lot slower. Disgaea is a whole beast. Is a whole different beast. And
Yeah, I do know it has that
Disgaea.
stacking mechanic with holding characters and
Yeah,
co-op
there's
attacks and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this guy for sure, but it's fun if you take the time. It's very satisfying to learn and all that. Valkyria Chronicles also has a lot of different unique stuff, but it's really fun. But again, a lot slower, I guess you could say, a lot
Yeah.
slower paced. As an introduction to SRPGs, I think this is a good place to start. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's easy. It's digestible. The levels are pretty quick. There's nice feedback. You sort of get the rhythm. There's a lot of player expression to some degree. Like you can kind of make whoever you want. I mean, you can try and make them like a tank, or you can make them a magic user, or you can make them kind of whatever to some degree. I thought it was interesting, the element system. I don't know how you felt about this, right?
I didn't really play around with it. After a while,
I
I realized that it was causing more harm than
Yeah.
I would like. To get the damage boost, I would rather just I'd rather just do no damage.
It's too risky.
Yeah.
It was too risky. I also thought it was a very interesting choice from a design perspective to allow, like I was thinking, like, okay, imagine Pokemon, you could pick whatever Pokemon you want, and then you can just make them whatever like element you need them to be at any point. And I
That's
feel like that
actually
took
the
away.
latest mechanic of the latest Pokemon game.
Is
yeah,
it?
yeah, terrestrialized. Is that what it's called? I forgot. Terrestrialized? I think that's the mechanic.
Which
But like
Pokemon?
Scarlet and Violet,
Scarlet?
that's you have these items instead of like gigantomaxing or mega evolutions, you can add these terrestrialized things, and it changes the uh type
The
of a
element?
Pokemon. So you
Oh,
can
the
have a
type. Yeah.
Pikachu that's a flying type, so now it's immune to earthquake and stuff like that. Just adds a little bit more nuance to it. I hated it, but
I don't like that.
yeah, it
I don't like
was
that.
annoying.
Feels there's something about the whole rock paper scissors sort of like element type, or that whole mechanic works, but it needs to be rigid. I feel like it needs to be like a rule and it can't be changed. You can't just be like, oh, hey, well, you can make this character this type now. I feel like the characters should come predetermined with like their own type. I thought it
Right.
was like I was trying to understand the choice and where it would work. And I guess it just gives you more flexibility, but ultimately I feel like it's a choice that's thrust upon the player that they don't need to make. Like it just
Especially
I
because
feel like
you can prepare before battle. Like you can scout and see, like, okay, there's a bunch of Luna units, so let me equip Soul +2 to Roger and this guy and put him over here to
Mhm.
better associate yourself before the battle. But I don't know. Like I feel you where it's like, because
It's just like another
even the elements, like the magic that you can use, like Thunderbolt and Ice Comet, like all of
Oh
those
yeah, yeah.
spells follow that trinity, and it leads to some sections where you're like, bro, why is this Fireball 2 doing 20 damage to this guy, but it's doing 166 to this guy? Like that doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. But uh, yeah, like you said, if it was just static, like this guy is Luna +1, and when you level him up, he'll become Luna +2 or Luna
Right.
+3 or whatever like that. That felt like it would have been better because it would have allowed me to use multiple characters instead of flatlining on my static party of 7
Right.
that I built up.
I guess okay, so I'm trying to think of it from a designer's point of view. If you want your players to basically use whoever they want at any point, so like if I really like Leanne, and I'm just like, damn, I wish she was a Stella type and not a Lunar type. I guess that gives the player the option to really customize their party to whoever they want. Once put that element chip or whatever, like gem, once you put it on a character, it's not like you have to move it. You can just leave it there forever and act like it's like their
Yeah.
intended
And that's kind of how
intended
I built
thing.
my
But
characters, is that I built them in like a sense of how can I build them to where they're always ready for whatever it's going to
yeah, yeah.
come at them. Pause. So you could have
That was so quick. You pause. That was like the quickest. It's like you immediately.
I don't know, man. Just
Yeah, yeah.
it's locked in. But I always built my characters in a way that I was always prepared for whatever battle would come around, whether it was, oh, this guy needed range so that he could hit that guy over there because he's at a tower, or this guy needed a move so he could fall back or have a counter on top of him. I always had that in the back pocket so that I built my characters around that, especially with the items and stuff like that. But to be fair, after a while, because of free battles, it you can easily grind and make this game easy, because free battles,
Yeah.
they give you exp. Any battle that you do, anybody that's not in a battle, they get exp. Everybody that you kill gives items, and then there's also these treasure spots on the ground that give items. So then once you're just amassing this giant collection of items and just background exp that's slowly leveling and keeping everybody up to snuff, then you start combining items and getting items that you're like not even allowed to use until you're like level 40 by accident. Like you're
Yeah.
getting like crazy powerful and
Hmm.
super fast, and it's very easy to do if you're just like me, where you're just like, oh, it's available to combine, all right, let's see what I can combine it with, let's combine it.
Yeah, yeah.
It gets incredibly easy to break this game, and I don't know if that's by design or if that's just me being a
I
weirdo.
I think that's you being autistic, but I feel like for me, I had not a hard time with it, but I felt like it was challenging, and then it got really easy when I started to understand and grind a bit more. But see, I don't like level scaling. I don't like when I'm leveling up and the enemy's also like at my level all the time.
Yes,
I'd
me
rather
neither.
I would rather be like, okay, that enemy is level 50, I'm level 41, let me grind, get to his level, and maybe even get to like level 55 or something.
Yeah, and
And
then beat
then
that
fucking,
monster
yeah.
real quick.
Because then that feels more rewarding, Maybe it makes sense in world like, oh, if I'm working and training, maybe the monster is also getting stronger to some degree, but he shouldn't always match whatever I'm at, And
Yeah.
I feel like grinding and getting OP is kind of the fun of RPGs because it feels like you're working towards that next big hurdle, as opposed to games that, like level scale, which Wayfinder actually gives you the choice, which I've never seen before. I don't know if I told you that, but
Oh yeah, I'm aware of that. Yeah, that's
and
one
I
of the
thought it was
main
kind of
reasons why I
crazy.
was like, I really rock with Wayfinder. That was, and then the Wayfinder before it became not a MMO or whatever the
Yeah,
fuck it
not
was.
free
That's
to play or whatever the fuck is live
yeah, the
service. I think it's gonna be a
modifiers and
live
all that
service.
stuff. That was one of the main things where I was like, that's actually really cool. I wish. Well, the Divisions 2 started adding that towards the end of its life cycle. Started adding like the chaos. What is it? It's something after hard, challenging, heroic, something. But they
Okay.
added like different difficulty modifiers and different like, oh, if you die one time, you go down a tier, or if you
Oh
die, you'll
shit.
lose your
Okay.
items. Like they added all those different modifiers that you can add to it to make it harder. So there's
Yeah.
always a scale of difficulty that you could do. Um, I think what it is for me that made this combat feel very cathartic was
You
Roger,
broke
not
it,
Roger.
Roger.
Yeah, is it Roger? Well, I said
Yeah, it is
Roger is
Roger.
annoying, and then I said Roger is the greatest of
Roger.
all time. Is it? Is Roger the mutt? What is a dog?
Oh
What is
no,
it?
the mutt is
Rufus. Rufus.
Rufus.
Yes, Rufus. Greatest of all time. Attack plus 20, health recovery 3, HP plus 150, defense plus 10,
Yeah.
counter. You can't stop him. He's crushing everything. Once I built him up, I was like, oh, I get it. I get it now. And then I
Yeah.
started building my characters like that, where I'm like, I'm going to have them specialize in certain
Yes. Yeah.
mechanics and stuff like that. And that really opened up a lot of the game. Because for me, even at the end, I just suck at positioning. I can't do it,
Wow,
bro.
really?
I just suck at positioning. I just don't know how to set myself up for 3 turns from now when this guy decides to turn up for some reason.
Well, it's
You
all
know,
about it's definitely about targeting. Like if you want to really get into it, you can like hover over them to see where they can move. Or you by that point, I'm assuming that like mages and like archers can't move that far and certain classes can move further. So you kind of position yourself to where like the characters that have higher movement are further out and the ones that don't are further in, so you keep them safe. So it just depends. Like you kind of have to just see like where everybody can move. But positioning is important in some SRPGs and not as important in others. In this game, it is important because you get that critical hit thing when it's a system that encourages positioning, but yeah, sometimes it just can't be helped. So, I mean, the enemies, like I said earlier, the enemies are aggressive and they will go after your weakest link, and they will, if you're not facing the right direction, they will exploit that. So sometimes you can't help it. Just to jump to something else real quick, I found it a very odd choice that you weren't able to use permanent stat boosting items outside of battle.
okay, I thought I was the only one that was crazy. I was like, what the fuck? Why can I not
It
use this?
makes it made no it was like so absurd to me. And I don't know if that's like our modern brain or modern gaming
No, it doesn't make
sensibilities.
any sense at all.
But
I can see it in the
no.
item. Let's just let me click item use so I can see the stats to go, okay, I need to upgrade his magic. So let me give him the magic fruit.
What makes it worse is that in game, in battle, if you use an item, that's a turn. So it's like turns are precious. You're not just gonna want to not do anything or use an
Right.
item and skip a turn. So I just thought it was so bizarre. So I had to
I would
use a lot
only
of those
use
stat
those.
boosting.
Oh, we continue?
Oh, I had to use a lot of those permanent stat boosting items in like when I was grinding, when I was like fighting enemies that weren't as strong, just because I wasn't gonna use one in a real battle. Like it was just too. So yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
only
just a
use
weird
them as
choice.
a positioning tool. Like at the end of a turn, if I'm like trying to move somebody up so that they can get to the next set of people to attack, I would move that person up and then have them use the fruit on somebody else or something like that.
Yeah,
So the
that's
turn's
smart.
not wasted.
Yeah, that is smart. That is smart. Um, let's see. Oh, I guess we already talked about the battling an enemy and depleting their health, but them still being alive and you fighting them again. I hate that.
Yeah.
Um,
There's some really creative free battles, I would say. Such as the one where you have to recapture the dragons. Did you play that one?
yeah, that was such an odd one. I
Yeah,
was like,
that
wait,
was
what is this? This is
yeah, that's such an
crazy.
interesting battle. Or the one where
Yeah,
you have to traverse the rooftops with Colette to get the treasures and stuff.
I
I
don't think I
wish there
ever
was.
did that one. The
Oh, you
rooftop
didn't.
one.
Do it. Yeah,
No.
there was two of those ones actually that you have to do with him, and I thought both of those are really really cool. Just because those landscapes were never used in like any other battle, so it was just cool to see like, oh, these rooftops. Oh, this is interesting. Setting
Yeah,
up the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
ladders and teleporting and stuff. I thought that was cool. I think the only thing I didn't like out of the free battles was the Coliseum. I felt like that was a wasted potential. I didn't really like most of the battles.
The Colosseum was a huge waste, like a potential. I don't understand. First off, you can only take two people
Right.
out of this out of the standard. I mean, typically in almost every battle, you can take up to seven, and maybe the least amount of people I've saw was like four, maybe five.
Yeah. You're at
But
least getting 5 to 6 or maybe.
yeah, and so it was just a strange decision to only allow two people in the Colosseum, and then you're essentially it's like a all or nothing, right? Kind of deal,
Yeah,
where you're
because you have to get
basically
like 10 floors and then you can leave and get a reward, or you'll get 20 floors and you can leave or get a reward. Like it was like you had to keep going in order to get better rewards. But if you quit at
yeah.
any time and your health doesn't like, did it recover in between
No,
matches? Yeah,
it
that's what it
didn't.
was.
That's why yeah. And then not only that, but like there's like six strong enemies, and it was just really difficult. It just didn't make it fun or like rewarding. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like how, even like later when I went to try and grind that, I thought that'd be a good way to grind. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. I could only bring two people at a time. Like,
Right.
and then the enemies start super weak. So by the time you get to like the ones that would give you a good amount of XP, you're already in danger of fucking losing it all. So I just didn't even bother with it after that. I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought there was gonna be more to it, to be honest, but there wasn't.
Yeah. There was a one free battle, I think in like a plains, where it starts out the first match is like a standard free battle on the plains. And then the second time you come, there's there's dragons. And you fight the dragons and they're like way higher level, like level
Yeah.
30 or 40. And then you come back again and they're like level 50 and 60, and it's like three giant dragons. So I thought that that
Wow.
was cool that if there are certain free battles that if you revisit them, they had different
I know what level
rewards
you're
and
talking about. Yeah.
yeah. Then there's the other one
Dragons.
where you fight Tiamat. It's just like a level 80 dragon or something out of nowhere on one stage. I was like, this is crazy. I didn't even think this would be here. Like I just did the free battle. Like, okay, whatever. I'll just do all the free battles before the final match. And I was like, oh, never mind. I will not do this free battle.
Did I do that? That sounds familiar. I think I might have done that one, but I think I bounced out as well.
Yeah.
Um, dude,
But
so
I
many
mean,
hours lost with this game is interesting because it wants you to like save on different save files. It encourages that. It's like, hey, make sure you don't save over. You're about to go into this like main battle. If you save over your world map save, you're
you will
stuck
not
in
be
this.
you gotta
Yeah.
finish this battle. You gotta do this.
And that happened to me where I'm like, I'm stuck, and now I have to fucking go back, and I would lose. I think I ended the game with probably 60 hours all told. I think it's recorded me at 40 hours, but I'm pretty sure I probably spent like 60 hours.
I would
over it.
say about the same. I'd say about like 45, 50 hours if you account if the save data at the end accounted for all the restarts I did. Because that was the same
Exactly.
situation with me. I had to start rotating saves because I think I got stuck on the
Yeah.
first like Talbot fight. I got
Yeah.
stuck on that for like a day or two. And then I
Yeah.
finally breezed through it. And then after that I just grinded until I got like Jeanne to like level 20 or something crazy like that. I was like, I'm not going out like this again. I can't
Yeah.
do it. No.
I do think it's interesting. The XP system is interesting. And I don't know why, but more recently I've just sort of been really into the way designers and developers implement these XP systems. So in this game, and I've never seen this before, but every turn of each unit, every time like you attack somebody, they get XP, which I don't think I've ever seen. So it's not, you get XP obviously when a unit defeats another unit, but every hit you get XP, and I thought that was interesting. I've never seen anything like that. Have you?
I think the
Have you
only
ever
game
encountered
I
that
can
before?
think of that does that is Castle Crashers. Because in
Does
the
it?
Castle Crashers, there is a little exploit that you can do where people juggle like one enemy. They'll just continuously juggle them as much as they can to like power level themselves. And I'm not gonna lie, I've done it a couple times where you catch an enemy in a corner and you're like, okay, I'm gonna just keep juggling and juggling and juggling. You're like, oh, I leveled up. Okay, cool. Now I
Right,
know I
right,
can
right.
abuse that, but I don't personally. But yeah, it is a thing you could do. I've seen it. I've seen people get to like level 256 or whatever like that. Like really do that. So it is a thing you can do.
Something that sort of caught me off guard was that random choice that you have for your next mission. You mentioned it earlier, which is like, do you want to go rescue this? What was the choice exactly? The choice was like,
I don't even remember,
go
bro.
march. It was like go storm this castle, or go down to like this beach area or this like bayou area. And that shit caught me by surprise. And I kind of, did you look it up? I tried to find out
Yeah,
like
I did
what the
look it up. Because I
because
was like, is there any difference? Is this going to make a big difference? And it was just like, no, you get one party member or another party. Like I think the first choice doesn't matter. It's like, it's just one battle or another battle. And you can go back and do the other battle if you want it. And then the
yeah.
second one, you get a party member. You get either a thief, a female thief that uses a rope. I mean, a whip. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Or
no
you
wonder.
Or you get a, so I'm assuming you chose the mage as well.
Yeah, I did. And she sucked. I never used it.
I feel like one stage I was like,
yeah,
she's ass, bro.
yeah, she is so weak, and I'm already so much investment in.
Yeah, Richard is
other
already
mage.
my guy. I don't need no other wizard. We
Mhm.
got Marcelo in the party. We're good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, who's this rope for? No one can use a rope. I kept picking up like the rope weapons, and I would see them. I'm like, I don't understand. I also thought like the cat lady was gonna join you at some point.
And that's why I thought that the whip was for as well until I had to Google to find that out that was the choice. It was either the mage girl or the whatchamacallit. Whatever she was. I don't know. I didn't see her. So all I know is that she was the other person. There was one other female you could have chose.
I'm just imagining. Can you imagine like, oh shit, these niggas did a whole podcast about this game that I love, and you just can't remember anyone's names or the.
Bro, okay. Here's my thing. When it comes
we sound
to
like
any
old
game,
men though.
bro. When it comes to any game, my thing with characters is, mind you, we beat this game in like, we're recording this
January
7th. 7th?
Yeah,
I beat this
so we
game
beat
in
this
like
game.
November. I beat this game before Thanksgiving.
I
took
beat
the
this
break
game
off.
late December.
Yeah, so like, I don't remember this shit.
I feel like even if we had recorded it earlier, we still would have, because we're like this a lot, where we just can't remember the names of anybody. Remember Final Fantasy 12?
I remember everybody in Final Fantasy 12. We got
now we
Penelo,
do, but I remember
Vaughn,
there was.
We got. No, we remember the names of Final
You're right.
Fantasy.
You're
12.
right. You're right. We were really on it for sure.
Even Eternal Sonata. What we had? Not now, but
okay.
but at the time.
This just feels like a common thing, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me.
No,
All right, let's.
but to be fair, there's like 70 fucking characters in this game, and besides, like, we each have our own attachment to certain characters. Like Marcel, I know that because that's the archer dude. I know
Yeah.
Jean. I know Jean,
Leanne.
because there was Jean and Jean. There was John and Jean.
That's
The
right.
spear-
Yeah, the purple. Yeah, the purple.
The spear
no. The spear dude with the orange. She had the chest.
Yeah. There was Roger, Rufus, Lahar,
Mm-hmm.
Leanne.
How come I can't remember the names of the people I used? Like, I can't remember the
Richard.
elf chick. I remember Richard. Because Richard feels like such a random name.
Is it Giselle?
Giselle, maybe?
Giselle? I don't know. Heliquin? Who the fuck is... Oh, Giselle. It was Galise. That's what it was. Galise. That was his name.
I don't remember that. This is not familiar at all. But
But yeah,
all right,
like,
so
there's people, bro.
let's get back on topic here with... Oh, yeah, so I wrote that I wasn't understanding the... There's like a power differential with skills and normal attacks. Like, there was some times where normal attacks were so much stronger than skills. And I was so confused at, like, why I had, like, a high-level skill, but it didn't do as much damage as a normal attack.
I don't know the computations behind that because I was wondering the exact same thing.
Like, I would use a high-level... Go on. Go on.
Like, it's how we both were saying the same shit. Like, for example, like Lahar or Rufus, when you use the wild swing or whatever, that's supposed to do like super high damage.
It says, yeah.
It really does less damage than a normal attack every time. And I'm like, why am I wasting my time with these skills? Or even like the little dive move that you could do with Giselle when he transforms.
Mm-hmm.
This shit was way worse than just using Thunderbolt.
Exactly. Some moves, even when you were in a powered up state, did less damage. And the numbers, too, like, you know how it would show, like, there's a 69% chance that you're going to strike, and then there's a 30% chance. Sometimes those numbers were so off, because it would say, like, I don't know. I was just like, I don't understand how this is being like, it just didn't make sense to me. You know, like, luckily it wasn't such a big issue that I was... Like, it was ruining my time with it. But I definitely noticed it when I was trying to plan what move I was going to use for things. And I would be dissuaded from using any of my skills for certain, like, enemies. Because I'm like, why would I use this skill? I actually took off a lot of skills and just added stat boosts.
Same.
Because I wasn't using skills at all. I was like, this is not making sense.
Other than, like, heal, the sure shot and the sky dart for the archer... and like maybe a thunderbolt for like range attacks. That's all I would use unless the stage specifically had monsters that took up multiple tiles, then I would equip Cyclone 2 to them. But other than that, it was just strictly stat boost for everybody except for, of course, the mage Richard.
Yeah. Yeah, the mage I had added stuff, but it's just like really weird. I didn't get that. And I'm sure there's some like game fact like
guide of like you should equip this, and this to this character and they'll be broken.
Yeah. I've actually been thinking about how often I'm like, should I start using those more? I feel like I got so much out of it with what game was it?
I feel you.
What game was it that we both used it? Was it Dragon Quarter and...
Yeah, I think it was.
Did we use it in Eternal Sonata? I think
I didn't use it for Eternal Sonata. I just vibed.
What the... I feel like I used it for something else, but I can't remember. Maybe... Oh, I think I used it for Death by Degrees. I think I used it for that.
Yes, I did as well, too.
And I'm like... But I remember I liked it, but I didn't because I felt like I was less in the game because
you were following the guide and it was
I was like looking at and then put it down. And yeah. But.
For a scrap game, Crimson Tears, I did use the guide a lot on that one too. But Crimson Tears was that is a
going
game.
back? When are we going back?
We gotta go back, man. that was a game, man. That is the most boater game, and
It is.
we're going back to it, bro.
We are back on track here. What do you think about characters leaving your party and coming back?
I hate it.
I hate it so much too.
See,
why?
Okay, my difference is if they came back and they were like at a generalized level, if they left at level 25 and then came back at level 40 or 35 or something like that, I would be like, okay, cool, that's okay. But to come back and be the exact same level that you were when you left, you were level 10 when you left. Roger, what the fuck am I supposed to do with you? We're in the final and I need you alive for every battle from here on out.
Yeah.
I need to level you up, bro. I had to spend like a couple hours grinding to get Roger up to everybody else's level, but of course you're grinding with everybody else, so it was like incredibly annoying to like almost kill everybody and then put Roger so he could get the last hit to get the super bonus EXP for hitting them. It was stressful. I don't like it. I don't like it as a mechanic. I don't like it as an idea.
I don't like it in any games, but I think you have to set the player up with some sort of expectation. Like, okay, so I think back to like Kingdom Hearts or even Final Fantasy 12, like we were talking about earlier. In Kingdom Hearts, there's a clear like denoting of who is going to be a temporary party member. So you know not to like invest in them or do anything crazy. It's like, fucking Jack Sparrow is part of your party now for this stage, and so you kind of get it. You're like, cool, that's fun. I get to play as him, but I'm not gonna. And I expect that he's gonna leave. And the same with the Final Fantasy 12, where I think you had some bonus party members. I just can't remember who they were.
Yeah, but you didn't have control of them, like the what's his name's?
There was a Vieira that you had, and then there was also like a different, like a soldier, right?
Yeah, and then there was the guy. I forgot his name, but he was the little brother of the main villain. But
yes,
but you don't have any control. You can't control how they act, what they got equipped. You can't control anything. They're just there as
a temporary ally. Yeah. Like Roger should have just been a temporary ally, or don't take him. Don't, because they did it with obviously Jeanne too. Like Jeanne D'Arc. They did it with the main character where they took her away from you. Leanne was in her place. I was like, dude, I invested so much in Jeanne at that point.
Leanne was level 3 when that happened too.
Luckily for me, I was like, I'm gonna use Leanne, and luckily it panned out for me. But I still invested so much time into, like, why would you take that away from the player? That doesn't make any sense. She's the titular character. You're gonna be like, what was the decision in like the boardroom? Basically, like, hey, what if? So you know how the game's called Jeanne D'Arc? What if 10 missions in we kill her, and they have to be this other girl for 10 missions, and then later she comes back, and then she's underleveled? How about that, guys? That sounds great. Like, it just doesn't make. Perfect. Why would they? Sounds fun.
I don't know. I feel like because I think they also believe that you would grind, that you would do some free battles, that they assumed that everybody, like for me personally, Jeanne was overpowered because I spent like one of those times and I just grinded her to level 20. So she just always was a step ahead of everybody. So by the time that she did leave, by the time she came back, everybody was just caught up to her. Right. And it felt like nothing even really happened per se. Whereas when she left, Leanne, I had to take that place and I had to grind her back up to get close to those people's levels. Or Roger had to go back and grind to get him up to everybody's level so that he can survive. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. I think that's...
I'm trying to think...
No, I was letting you think.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I'm trying to think of how the developers would... How do they know what the player's going to do? Like...
But I don't think a lot of players pigeonhole themselves. I don't know, because...
You think that's a play style of like putting all of your... I feel like players do that. That's like a play style of like...
Yeah, putting your eggs in one basket. Yeah, but I mean, I think there's... I know there's... I vividly remember one of my cousins, Pokemon. he would
He would
not
put
move on. Like if one character, like he would move them up in 5. So if Pokemon got to level 15, he would grind all his Pokemon up to level 15 and then move on. Like look, grind them all to level 20, then I'm gonna grind them all to level 25, then I'm gonna grind them all to level 30. Like he was just a fucking weirdo about it. I don't know. And I always thought that was just stupid. I was like, bro, just get your Charizard to 36 real quick, bro. What are you doing? But I don't know. Some people are just like that to where they even out their entire party base. So some people could have been like, okay, for this mission, I'm going to choose Beatrix and Bartholomew and Marcel. Like I'm going to choose all of these characters that I don't normally play as for this
Wait,
mission.
you just dropped 2 of the names. Yeah, I used Beatrix. That was her name.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I used Beatrix. I never used Bartholomew. I think I tried, but yeah. You just
just said the other rest of the days.
Yeah, you said the names we've been struggling with. I wouldn't be surprised if you named all the locations all of a sudden too.
Yeah, the fucking Paris and Reims.
Yeah.
Normandy. But yeah, so there's some people like that are like, I'm going to use this character instead of Lahar because I used Lahar last stage, or I'm going to use. So I mean, there's people like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I was with Final Fantasy 12. I rotated them out a lot. If I'm like, okay, this dungeon I used these characters, I'm going to use the characters I didn't use in this dungeon.
I feel like I was very, like, with the Pokemon example specifically, I would have my main, like my starter was always the strongest no matter what, at least 10 levels ahead, and everybody else was the same level. So I would so I would always have like one really strong Pokemon, usually my starter, and then the rest were like around the same level. And then maybe the difference was like a 10 level difference between my starter and the rest. So it's kind of a mix.
All over the place. I'd have a level 30 Pidgey, a level 55 Dragonite, a Poochyena that just caught from level 7. I'm like, oh man, like I'd just be all over the place. Just fuck it.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
What else do we got for gameplay?
We've kind of touched on a lot of the things that I was going to touch on, specifically like positioning and free battles, and like you said, this is a genre staples that, but like I don't know, I guess it's just me as a newcomer. I was just like, damn. I mean, give me like 2 more characters, please. Just 2, not a lot. I don't need 15 characters a stage. Just give me like 2 more.
Yeah.
1 more, please.
I would say jump into Disgaea. I feel like Disgaea is pretty friendly. It just, there's a lot of mechanics, but it's like not all the mechanics need to be engaged with. I think people get intimidated because they think that they have to engage with everything at the deepest level. And you don't.
They think they have to grind a level 9,000.
Yeah, they think they need to level up all their weapons. I'm like, no, I got by, dude. I put 100 hours into Disgaea 4. I didn't beat it, but I had fun with my time with it. Like and then Disgaea 5, I played 45 hours, I think. I never beat that, but
what is your opinion on, have you heard of a game called Eternal Poison?
Yeah.
What is your opinion of that game? No, we haven't played
I've never played it. Yeah, no. But I know it's like it's turn-based, right? Is it a strategy RPG?
Yeah, it's another strategy RPG. And I have it, but the only reason I have it is because I just like the idea of there's a capture mechanic with this game. So like if you fight a boss or you fight a unit that's really tough, you can capture it. And then you can use it to like either like feed into your other units to buff them or steal their skills and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know. I just always thought that was an interesting idea. And plus it just looks really cool, but it's expensive as shit though. For no reason.
Yeah, you got it though, didn't you?
Yeah. I got the disc for cheap and then I reprinted the case because I don't care. Yeah. I just wanted the game.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to add something about the skill binding. It's crazy to make that such like a it's definitely one of the forefront mechanics in Jeanne D'Arc, right? and the fact that you can't filter, you can't sort, and the animation for fucking Cusis the frog chewing that shit was so long every time.
Bro,
I don't know.
You're telling
like,
me, bro.
And then you had to. So if you're like experimenting, you had to like select one, go down each list to figure out which
until to see which one was highlighted.
Yeah, I'm like, what? This is archaic. What is this?
I hated that shit. And then the fucked up part is you would see like a new thing that you created, and it's like, oh, it can be crap. It can be, oh, I can combine this with something else.
Yeah,
and then
it's like what? And then when you did combine
it,
shit,
it will fuck up, and it'll be like, oh, it's fireball level 1.
Yeah,
like what the fuck? That was just a super good skill, and I just fucked it up. Now it's back to a basic skill.
Exactly. That's based. Yeah, that was another big issue where some of the skills could essentially be downgraded. You know, you could have 2 powerful skills, and it would make some other base level skill, which was confusing. And I feel like, I mean, it makes sense that there would be different ingredients to make the same thing. It makes sense, but I don't know if I liked that mechanic. It made experimenting a lot less rewarding because you knew that there was a chance that you were just gonna get fucking, Fireball 1 or whatever. But,
yeah, I think there was one vividly where I was messing around where it was like I made Take Flight, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then you can combine Take Flight with Sky Dart, and that just makes Thunderbolt 1. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, at least make Thunderbolt 2. Like, that's ass.
Yes, very, very confusing. I think that's all I have for it, man. I'm glad we played it. I'm glad we got it out of the way. I'm glad it's on my backlog marked. I'm glad it's done and over with. I don't have to think about it anymore.
No more JRPGs.
It's a chapter for who? For me? For you? For you? No,
for the season.
Oh, right. That was the JRPG for the season.
Done early.
Yeah. All we got next is sports games.
All we got next is real nigga games, bro. We're playing 50 Cent Bulletproof. Let's go.
We're playing Def Jam Fight for New York.
We're playing NBA Street Volume 2.
Specifically Volume 2.
25 to life.
Yeah, that's all I got for the game. Would you recommend it?
Yes. Especially now that it has like a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 remaster. I would definitely recommend it because I believe it has rewind, and I think it has rewind, quick save, and better graphics. Like, I mean, of course, if you have a PSP or emulator or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Play it. But, you know, if you can play it. It means I don't know what to tell you. It's a good game. It's a great game. And if you're a JRPG fan, you've probably either already played this game or you've already been thinking about this game. And it's beautiful. It's striking. It's gorgeous.
Combat is satisfying, which is very important in a
yes
strategy RPG game. It's it feels good, it sounds good, and it's a good put a fucking album on in the background. Let's create your own playlist for this kind of game.
Yes,
for sure.
And just and just vibe.
Yeah, just vibe. Yeah, it's not too story heavy. I wouldn't say there is a story. There's cutscenes, but they're not super long. They don't overstay their welcome. Yeah, I mean it's a very, very solid entry. Will it win any of the Boater Award categories?
It's got a lot of competition this year, so
it's hard to say.
Like the last couple of years, there's only been 6 or 7 games, so you know it's easy to be like, these are the standout ones for each category. But like, our Racing Evolution's looking at me from behind, and
it's looking good.
The box art alone is like, it's nice, man.
I'm excited for it. Hey, but I will warn you that it's a bit challenging. I did play the first. This is like when I first picked it up like 2 years ago. Played the first like 2 hours, and I think that the third race you're in Italy or something, and it's a time attack, and it's like part of the main mission. And I was like, I cannot fucking beat this shit.
That's all good. If it's like Chorokyu, I had fun mastering
It's not like
Chorokyu.
Chorokyu.
Or not like
No, it's more. I'll reserve my judgment on it. I think I probably play more racing games than you, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the most I've ever played was like it's funny you guys are both waving at each other. But yeah, I think the most I played was like Need for Speed Carbon, Most Wanted, Underground 2. I was a big Need for Speeder, Midnight Clubber.
Same.
Yeah, if I like played like a racing game, it was most likely either those or it was like I did play this MMO that was a racing game.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, this is gonna be a fucking deep pool. Tails Runner? Is that the fucking name of it? Yes, that's the name of it.
MMO racing game.
It's an MMO racing game, but you're on foot racing, and it has power-ups like Mario Kart and like obstacles and boost gauges and stuff like that.
You're on foot racing?
You're on foot, like you got to jump over hurdles and obstacles and shit like that and slide. I played the fuck out of that, but it's weird.
Race. So it's on not cars. It's like
no, it is literally you have a character and you customize your character and you run around on foot and like
that sounds wild.
Yeah, there's a game on Iridium Runners. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Iridium Runners on PlayStation 2. It's exactly like that, but in an MMO sense.
All right, let's wrap this bitch up. I mean, it's a great kickoff to the season with Jeanne D'Arc.
We've been doing this for 5 years, man. How you feel?
Good. I love telling people that I do this. I love telling them exactly what we do because I meet so many people that are older and they talk about like the time they spend with video games and how it's like just maybe not that much worth it. They need new hobbies, and I'm like, dude, I have a video game book club. I'm making.
I need you to join.
I get to fucking play a game, like an old game that nobody would care about otherwise, with one of my best friends. I get to make content out of it. It's perfect.
Yeah,
you know. The only thing though is people are always like, "Oh, how many subs do you have?" I'm just like, "Oh,
12."
How many people you got in the Discord?
4.
I'm like, wait, how long have you been doing this?
7 years.
12 years. So it gets.
No, I fuck with it. I fuck with it heavy because. I mean, it's really just us, bro. It's just me and you. We just playing the game. She literally was downstairs reading for her own book club that she started up from inspiration from us. Like, they pick titles.
Does she have a podcast or?
No, just
okay. No. So does she meet up with people or something?
Yeah. So her and her friends, they pick out a book. They each take turns instead. So she's really into fantasy. One of her friends is really into romance. Another friend's really into like suspense and thrillers. So they all get together. They pick one book, and then that's their book they read for the month. And they all get on FaceTime like us and sit there.
Oh shit!
Yes, this is what we're doing. And it's just so funny to see her taking notes and doing all this shit and talking and being like, okay, I gotta do this, and
yeah,
I don't like the way these characters are doing. And the funniest thing happened is because at first it was so funny. She was always like, this book is a 5. And I'm like,
right.
What? Because a 5 to me is like greatest of all time. I can recommend
5 out of 5.
Yeah, I can recommend this to anybody. And she's like, this is a 5. And I'm like, whoa, calm down.
Yeah.
And the latest, like, I'm starting to peep that she's gotten to the point now to where like she's thinking deeper about books. Like, she read this book, forgot the name of it, but she finished it and she was like, it's a very interesting story and premise, but I don't know what the author was trying to explain or tell me with this book, what they were trying to say. And I was like, oh, she's getting deep now. Oh, yeah, shit. Yeah. It's not just because before, it was romance and fantasy, so it's good to, girls and be like, oh, I like this character. They're so hot. Oh my God, wow. But now she's like, no, but like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say to me about this? And I'm like, okay, now we're getting deeper. And I like that. I like seeing that evolution, and I'm glad that we could be an inspiration, even though hers is a literal book club and ours is video.
Hey, if we were in the same town, I'm sure we would be doing this in person.
Yeah.
It's harder to do it like this, actually.
Yeah.
Because we have like
3 hour time difference and shit.
Yeah, 3 hour time difference. We gotta fucking like record the screen and our audio. Like if we were in the same room, it'd be way simpler.
Bro, if I could share a screen of what my screen looks like right now, bro, I have Audacity in one corner, us in another corner, but in the background is the podcast. It looks crazy, bro.
It's a command station. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us on another episode. Season 5 kickoff. Look forward to our next game, which will be our racing. And also, don't forget to check out our new channel, which features video game mixes from all different types of genres. Right now, we have one that's
we got some trap, we got some future bass, we got a little bit of rap and hip hop influence in there. By the time that this comes out, there will be a second one up, and maybe a third, because we're trying to do it every 2 a month. So
yeah,
technically that's one. So yeah, that'll be 2. So yeah, by the time that you watch this episode and you're gearing up to finish Jeanne D'Arc, you should be three mixes in.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to say which one it is, because I don't even know if I'm going to do them in order. Like I want to do them in what the order I uploaded them in. Spoilers, but like at that time, like, nah, bro, fuck it.
Maybe mix it up.
Give y'all the. Nah, I was gonna censor it. I was gonna say something wild and then put the bleep over it when we edit it, so people don't even know what kind of mix it is until it comes out.
Well, don't forget to join our Discord, where we have a bunch of discussions about a bunch of different things. We can talk about the current game, talk about modern games, music, anime, movies. We're all up in there, and there's some good people, friendly people that are in that Discord too. So join us when you can. That's it for me. That's it from us.
Yeah.
So we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah.
Peace.
Go get your copy of Our Racing and play.